All right, welcome back to Defense Stars. I'm your host, Bob Mata, and this is our continuing coverage of the people of the state of Arizona versus Lori Vallow Daybell. Let's get right to it. We have a little bit of nice bloop time, I believe, and let's fire it right up because we were, if you weren't here early, we're getting to it. We're getting to the good stuff. We're getting to the conspiracy stuff. And it's getting juicy, y'all. It's getting juicy. Amy, you were awake for all the bullshit, but fell asleep for the dirt. All right. Well, you'll just have to take our word for it. It's getting juicy. It's getting juicy. All right, let's see. Oh, there's little Miss Fussy Britches walking in. There she is, her big file. She's got her updo going. She's got that black blazer she wears every day. A different shirt underneath.
All Bring in the jury.
Let's go.
Oh, I did put drafts of proposed jury instructions for you guys to review tonight. Obviously, some of those can change depending on what happens with the defense case, but that's at least something for you to get started with. Let's bring in the jury.
True, from cheese is another alternative to smegma. You know, that's from underneath.
Check funding. You can wait until they actually start coming.
All right. I already have some blooping. Bloop, bloop. Oh, wait, that's pause. Never mind. Bloop, bloop, bloop. Oh, there he is. Glasses on.
That takes a minute to restart when it's shut down. So
reading to commence. Sounds like we have a little blooping action time. Bloop, 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 bloop.
Should be kicking on. I know when it times itself out, it shuts down. You want to email the AV guys just in case it doesn't pop on here in a second.
They were working on something.
They were working on something?
Yes, I don't know what it was, but they.
Okay. Rather than keeping everyone waiting, why don't we go and have the jury go to the jury room? We'll see if we can get this up and running here in a few minutes.
Oh my God, more blooping. Let's bloop. You guys want to bloop? Let's bloop. Bloop, 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 blooping, bloop, 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 bloop. Oh, this is going to eat up all our blooping time. I don't like this. This is sliding time. Oh my God. Y'all. Oh, there we go. Bloop it a few times. Oh, there we go. Let's get it fired.
Sorry about that.
Oh, thank you. All right, so just to put us back into perspective, when we broke before lunch, we were discussing Exhibit 227, correct?
Yes.
And this was some of the SMS or text messages between Lori Vallow and Alex Cox that were collected from her Lolly Time iCloud account.
Correct.
Okay. And we had discussed the text messages from July 9th referencing the intervention.
Yes.
And we discussed the text messages from July 9th discussing Nephi.
Yes.
Those messages also referred to Mel, correct?
Correct.
Now, As we go to the next page of this report, for the 10th of July, do we then see text messages between Lori Vallow and Alex Cox talking about meeting up for lunch with Mel on July 10th?
I do.
And then as those messages go along, does Lori Vallow in fact invite Alex over to her house?
Yes.
And he advises, okay.
Yes.
Are there any text messages between them on the 11th of July?
There are none.
Now, the next messages that we show in this, and again, these are not all of the text messages, correct?
Correct.
Is from the 13th of July, correct?
Correct.
And it says, need you, Adam is freaking out. Based upon your understanding of the case and the testimony of Adam Cox, is that when he found out Charles Vallow was dead?
That is correct.
So this one is from Lori Vallow to Alex saying, need you, Adam is freaking out.
Yes.
Again, as we kind of go through what was relevant, and we're not saying these are all of the text messages, on August 12th, do we see a text message from Lori Vallow to Alex Cox saying at Social Security?
Yes, you do.
Based upon your information and review of the case, were you familiar with August 12th being the date that Lori Vallow went to Social Security to apply for survivor benefits?
Yes.
You told us that when you were looking through these messages, we had originally looked at some of the messages from the Lori for Style account, and you had looked for messages involving Ned, correct? When we heard testimony from Serena Sharp, do you recall her using the word zombie?
I do.
And that she indicated that that was a term that Lori used,
Correct.
and it referred to something to do with the possession.
Yes.
As you were looking through these messages, did you ever see Lori referring to people as Zs
I
or
did.
Z?
Just the single letter Z.
Single letter Z. And so when we look at these messages, Exhibit 227, do we see starting on September 3rd, a message from Lori Vallow to her brother Alex Cox saying bad news on our brother?
Yes.
And Alex responds, what's that?
Correct.
And she says Z.
Yes.
And does Alex then say, really, when was that?
Yes.
As that conversation continued on that September 3rd, does Lori tell Alex as of early January?
Yes.
Now, is it your understanding, based upon both testimony from people like Kay Woodcock as well as your own investigation and testimony from Christina Atwood, that sort of in February and March is when Lori Vallow disappeared?
Yes.
So she's now saying her brother has been a Z as early as January. Does then Alex Cox respond back to her? That explains his interest in Charles.
You say her brother, I think, as far as Z or Zach. Zach is
Her
Z.
brother
Yes.
first.
Yeah.
So initially she's talking about her brother, right?
Correct. Yes.
And so in this conversation, as we start through, Lori is telling Adam or Alex that their brother is a Z, correct?
Correct.
As early as January. And it's tied to Charles, right?
Correct.
And in fact, the next text from Lori Vallow to Adam says, Ned recruited him shortly after. This is why, right?
Yes.
She then goes on to say he's part of the 24, correct?
Yes.
And Alex says, that makes sense. Wow.
Correct.
Does Lori then go on to speak of more Zs?
She does.
Does she in fact say, again, still on this September 3rd conversation, more sad news, guess who is the final Z of the 24?
Yes.
And Alex questions if it's Pops or Brandon.
Correct.
And then Alex also says, Zach. Oops, may not be shown yet, sorry. So Lori tells, guess who the final Z of the 24 is, right?
Correct.
And we see from Alex, he guesses Pops or Brandon with a question mark.
Yes.
And then Alex also responds, Zach.
Correct.
And sort of the times here are close in time.
Correct.
We have 10:20:29 and 10:20:43. Lori responds, nope, think of Judas, who loved me completely, then turned against me.
Yes.
And then we see Alex saying, tell me.
Correct.
And Lori Vallow says to Alex, yes, our sweet Zach, he is in paradise, the real Zach. It makes final sense.
Can you push that up a bit further just to verify? That is correct.
And does Alex then ask Lori, his sister, when this happened?
Yes.
So we're still on the same date. And does Lori then tell Alex about the time he turned, makes sense, he being dedicated to Brandon and Ned?
Yes.
So again, we're still seeing this reference of Ned being Charles.
Correct.
And so now they're tying Adam, Zach, and Brandon with Charles.
Correct.
And so do we see again, so from Alex to Lori, so February.
Yes.
And again, is this around that time period where Lori Vallow disappeared,
Correct.
left JJ with Charles?
Yes.
And we had heard in the interview that the defendant gave with Detective Ann Clan that she told her about her just leaving and disappearing.
Yes.
As that conversation goes on, does Alex then say, how did Zach die, or was he forced out?
He does.
Previously in the Lori for Style, had we seen again a reference of Charles' body being alive, but Ned being gone?
Yeah.
And again, we've heard people testify as to Charles being possessed by that evil spirit
Yes.
and the unknown of if that spirit went away, what that would mean for Charles.
Correct.
So this conversation then, after Alex asked Lori, how did Zach die? Was he forced out? Does Lori go on to say, it's crazy, I know, but it's sad and true. Now we know all 24, right?
Yes.
And then she also tells Alex, forced out, I think.
Correct.
And did Alex then say with his anxiety, he wasn't strong enough to fight back?
Yes.
And Lori, and he said, So throughout this time period, from February of 2019 up through September after this, are we still seeing Lori talking about Charles being Ned,
Yes.
this concept of Z or zombies,
Correct.
and others that seem to have helped Charles were equally dark?
Yes.
On the day, or the day leading up to, as well as on the 11th of July, so July 10th and 11th, did you, in looking at the reports for the Lolly Time iCloud account, see messages between Lori Vallow and her sister Summer?
I did.
In those messages, did you see Summer providing updates as to the location of Adam and Zach on the 10th?
On the 10th, yes.
And did you also see Summer providing information about a place for Lori to stay?
I did.
I can have my paralegal approach with 287. Do you recognize Exhibit 287 as some of those text messages between, from Summer, Lori's sister, to Lori on July 10th, advising about Adam and Zach?
I do.
State will move to admit 287 into evidence.
Any objection?
No objection.
287 is admitted.
Now, just so we understand again, how is Zach related to Adam?
Zach is Adam's son.
And so we heard Adam say that when he came down here, Zach was staying with his parents.
Yes.
And Zach ended up actually flying home with him.
Yes.
So on the 10th of July, we see, again, this is instant messages now. Is that another type of data that could be saved in the iCloud account?
Yes, again.
So in these instant messages, we can see who it's from as a contact of Some, right?
Correct.
And Adam had told us that Summer was sometimes called Some.
Yes.
And then again, contact the 480 with the last number is 9562. Is that Lori Vallow's?
Yes, it is.
So instant messages between Lori Vallow and Summer.
Yes.
So on July 10th at 2:04, Summer's asking if Lori can talk.
Yes.
And then about 34 minutes later, does she advise that Mom is in the car with Adam and Zach on the way home from Sky Harbor?
Correct.
And so we knew that Adam came in early afternoon on the 10th, right?
Yes.
And then Summer tells her sister, Lori Vallow, she wanted to know if she could confront him as a preemptive strike. I told her no, just to collect info.
Yes.
So we know from the 9th in that conversation or that text message by Lori Vallow to her brother Alex that she's aware there's an intervention about to happen.
Correct.
And she is rallying the troops around her.
Correct.
And her mom is asking if she can help by doing a preemptive strike.
Yes.
Then do we see an instant message also on the 10th at 2:43 from Mimi. Adam thinks Melanie left for Utah today because that's the last he knew. I just left it that way.
Yes.
Again, going back to that July 9th message, did Lori tell Alex that Mel had to stay and she couldn't go to Utah?
Yes.
As Summer continues updating Lori Vallow on July 10th at 2:48, does she tell her they're headed to Mimi's house?
Correct.
And then as we continue on at 7:10 at 3:29, does Summer provide an update again that Zach and Adam are headed to a Spider-Man movie in the time that is happening at?
Yes, they do.
Then on 7:10 at 4:56, we see again a message from Summer. I think so, just me and the kids here, right?
Correct.
Or M. Then we see a reference to JJ at 7:10 at 6:25 that he left his wrist brace and ukulele there, right?
Yes.
At 6:26 p.m. on July 10th, does Summer then offer Lori that she could stay at her house?
She does.
She tells her, would you rather stay here this week while we are gone? That way no one would know you were here. We can tell Zach we are putting Zeus in a kennel.
Correct.
So she's willing to lie to Zach so her sister can stay at her house and have no one know where she is.
Apparently.
Then she continues to update Lori that at 8:10 p.m. on the 10th that Zach and Adam are still here playing Phase 10 and eating, right?
Yes.
And as the night goes on, Summer then advises that, again, keeping her updated where Adam and Zach are.
Correct.
Did this message say, again, that Adam was waiting for Al to text him back?
Yes.
So again, we knew Adam was thinking he was staying with Al, right?
Correct.
And then finally at 8:54, we see Adam and Zach just left to go to Mimi's.
Yes.
And so we heard from Adam that they stayed with his parents.
Correct.
And then on the 11th, did we just see instant messages from Summer reaching out to Lori saying, how's it going today?
Yes.
No responses on those.
No.
Now, we've seen a lot of this mention of Melanie or Mel. And when Adam testified, he told us that his sister's daughter was Melanie Boudreau at the time, correct?
Correct.
In the Lolly Time at iCloud.com account, was there a contact name for a Mel B or Melanie B?
Yes, there was.
And did you learn who Melanie B was in this contact list?
That was Melanie Boudreau.
So we see a mention of a Mel in that July 9th Nephi text to Alex, right?
Correct.
And we see other mentions of Mel throughout these other text messages that we've had,
Yes.
including the need for Melanie or Mel not to go to Utah, correct?
Correct.
Show defense 228.
Go ahead.
If I can have my paralegal approach for 228. Looking at 228, are those some of the text messages from the 9th and 10th with between Lori Vallow and Melanie B on the Lolly time?
Yes, they are.
And do those, again, involve sort of Melanie staying here in Phoenix instead of going to Utah,
Yes,
as well as updating on where Charles is and where Al is?
correct.
State will move to admit 228.
Any objection?
No objection.
228 submitted.
So we had talked about earlier that there are a lot of times where we see sort of the call me things sent. When you first look at this 228, the messages between Lori Vallow and Melanie B on July 9th at about 7:21 p.m., do we start with a message from Lori to Melanie, need to talk to you ASAP?
Yes,
Now, when you were talking about the Alex message, let me grab that one. Sorry, right here. When we look at 227, we see messages with Alex Cox that are a little bit later, where we're talking the plot thickens, call me when you can, right?
correct.
So these messages to Melanie B occur before, but it's the same sort of thing. So the plot thickens, call me when you can. We see a message from Lori to Melanie, need to talk to you ASAP, right?
Correct.
And then I'll call you in 5, finding out what to do. Correct?
Correct.
And then a response of K.
Yes,
As sort of the night goes on, we see some sort of messages of Melanie updating Lori of where she is and what's going on, right?
correct.
And then we see from Lori telling Melanie at 8 o'clock, you can't go tomorrow. It's a setup for both of us, still on the phone, finding out the details.
Correct.
At that time, she hasn't sent the message yet to Alex, correct?
Correct.
So the Nephi message has not gone out yet.
Yes,
So then we see Lori Vallow sending to Melanie B, they have an elaborate plan, I'll call you soon,
yes,
correct?
correct.
Then as the time goes on, we see a message again, now from Melanie saying, I could take all the babies and drive and take our stuff.
Correct.
But Lori responds, you can't go at all. We both need to stay here to defend ourselves, right?
Can you move that up, please?
Sure, yes, sorry.
That is correct.
So Lori's telling her you can't go.
Yes,
And this is where then we see a message from Lori Vallow to Melanie B. It's coming to a head. This week will change everything.
yes,
And that's where Melanie B says, probably why I felt sick about going, even when told to plan to go.
correct.
And then again, we see another call me, right?
Correct.
Now, when we look at timing, we know again, when we go to 227, that the plot thickens to Alex is at 9:03, right?
Yes,
And so now we also have the plot thickens also sent here where they're talking.
that's to Alex.
Sorry, that's Alex, yes.
Right.
So as the night goes on, 9:28, this is sort of in between those messages to Alex as well as before the Nephi one.
Right.
And do we see here that Melanie says, I can lay at my house if I need somewhere to go. And then she goes on to say, I think I'll tell him I don't want to get the kids sick, so I'll go lay down at Mimi's, then gym, temple, and lunch.
Yes,
So she's going to pretend to be sick, but she's going to go to the gym, temple, and lunch.
correct.
Then she continues to sort of advise what's going on the 10th and tell Lori, is it better for me to stay here or leave, do you think? So she's getting her direction from Lori.
Correct.
And then from Melanie, she advises Lori, Adam and Charles don't come until tomorrow, right? Or she asks her. And then she says, Brandon said it's okay, we can get in a flight tomorrow or whenever you're better.
Yes,
So On the 10th, Melanie asked if Charles and Adam are coming in, right?
Yes.
And Lori tells them they both come tonight, correct?
Yes.
So she already knows that Adam is coming and that Charles is
Charles is
coming.
coming, yes.
Does it go on? Okay. This is from Melanie. So today doesn't really matter, but I'm here. I have the kids tomorrow and that could make it easier for them. So I should probably be sick again tomorrow, question mark?
Correct. Correct.
And again, does Lori say, I think so, but I think they're moving their plans to tomorrow since they will still try to get rid of you.
Yes.
Then there's a discussion from Melanie about wanting to go to this wedding.
Correct.
And Lori saying, I know, baby, I'm so sorry. This is important to your mission, even though I know it's hard to just sit there.
Correct.
So she's given her a mission to pretend to be sick.
She has a mission, yes.
Then we see from Melanie, I just got to the gym, but do you want to do lunch after? What's your day look like? Are you going to Glendale?
Correct.
So we can see a plan going here where she's pretending to be sick for Lori, but they're meeting up.
Yes.
Lori says, yes, let's do lunch. I'm not going today.
Correct.
Then they discuss sort of meeting up. And as we go on in the 10th, is Melanie advising her that Brandon's been here the whole time. He's been on the phone and texting the whole time. I told him I'm trying to get on a flight tomorrow, but he thought the wedding was tomorrow, so he was surprised it's Friday.
Correct.
And Lori tells her maybe she can go tomorrow night. So on the 11th, Lori Vallow already knows by the 10th, Lori Vallow is already knowing, but by the night of the 11th, Mel need not stick around.
Correct.
So she needs to be there in the morning, but maybe you can go tomorrow night on the 11th.
Correct.
And then we see, again, Melanie, maybe I'll tell him I'm not going at all, and then I just end up going Thursday night, but his plans are canceled. And again, so July 11th is Thursday, right?
Yes.
Lori then tells Melanie, I don't want you to regret not going, right?
Correct.
Melanie checks in on Lori. This is still the 10th. How are things on your end? And also, I don't want to regret not going. Meanwhile, I'm over here dreading packing and playing sick, right?
Correct.
So she confirms that she's doing this for Lori to distract Brandon.
She's not really sick, yes.
Then we see Melanie saying, packing for the move, that is, and then asked to be, will you clear me?
Correct.
So still on the 10th, as we get to 6:47, we have Lori telling Melanie, sure, I'll work on you now. Do you want to come over for a blessing?
Correct.
And this is where we then see Melanie ask, sure, I can, but is Charles coming? Is Al there? Right? And so Lori lets her know that Al is here at 7:18 p.m. on July 10th, right?
Correct.
And Charles says he will come over in the morning.
Yes.
So at 7:18, everyone sort of knows Al is over at Lori's, Charles isn't there, he'll be over the next morning.
Correct.
And then we see Melanie say, I'll head over, right?
Correct.
This next message is from the 11th, correct?
Yes.
And we see her tell Lori again, Zach is here, right?
Correct.
And again, now it's closer to 8. He just acted like he was coming over to get his mail. He told Brandon, oh, hey, Adam's in town. And Brandon acted like he didn't know. I asked if he was moving in with Adam Cannon, and he said he doesn't know yet. And then do they confirm after that, I can fly out at 9 p.m. tonight and be back Saturday afternoon?
Correct. And those two prior messages, you can see the time frame of 7:48. Obviously, the event has taken place, and they're not read until 1:38 in the afternoon.
Okay. So yes, so this is at the 7:53 a.m. when this is sent. That is after Lori Vallow has left the house with Charles's phone in his car.
Correct.
And it's read at 1:28 after Lori Vallow has been interviewed and released back in Charles Vallow's SUV.
Yes.
And they go over to Alex's house.
Correct.
So when you're trying to put this case together, you're having to pull all these different text messages to see when Lori knew what she knew and who she was directing to do things, correct?
Correct.
As you were looking through these messages, were you also having to figure out who some of these people were?
Yes, I was.
We had talked about that phone number, the 515 number that was listed as a contact of Bubby. Do you
Yes.
recall that?
Yes.
And that you, through looking at the iCloud account, the text messages, the call that was made by Chad Daybell using this phone and recorded, that Bubby contact name is Chad Daybell.
Correct.
When you were reviewing those iCloud accounts, does every text message always save in them?
Yeah, I see a lot of comments in chat that there's a concern that this might get kind of lost in the mix in terms of what they're trying to get to the jury with respect to a timeline when messages were sent, what the significance of those were. I agree. I think that, I don't know if it'll be in closings, or I don't know if they put together a better demonstrative where they kind of lay out like a timeline wherein you've got text messages where it's got a time, who sent it, along with some kind of chart that lets people know who is who in terms of nicknames, whether Summer is Summer, Ned is Charles, whatever the case may be. And then they lay out the text messages as they come in with the times to give the significance, with the big demarcation line of Charles' death in there. So you can see everything that's coming in prior to. You can see when the text between Adam and Charles stop. So that's what they've really built their time of death on, in conjunction with the fact that Lori said, this is when the shooting happened, we left the house. So those two things have created a time of death. And then they need to be able to build it up that she's saying all this weird shit. And the other demonstrative piece of evidence, or chalk, as I like to call it in the Commonwealth, needs to be kind of a key in terms of who Nephi is, what the significance of that is. I don't know if there's been a ruling on why they haven't said that Z means zombie. I mean, again, we know that because we watched the first trial. Those of you who have watched the first trial, we know that Z means zombie. The jurors know that? I don't know. I really don't know. But I agree. I mean, they're going to have to tighten this shit up, because if this is the smoking gun evidence, they've got to make it make sense. They have to make it make sense. Just putting the text messages out there with no context ain't it. The jury's going to need more. The jury is going to need more. I agree completely.
They do not know.
So did you also have to look at phone records to see if those matched up or if there were missing records?
I did.
And we talked about, obviously, phone calls are not saved in the iCloud account, right?
Correct.
So when you were looking at those Chad Daybell phone records, did you look to see on the morning of July 11th of 2019 if there were any text messages or phone calls made between Chad Daybell's Bubby phone and Lori Vallow?
I did.
Do those records show a text message from Chad Daybell's phone to Lori Vallow's phone on July 11th of 2019 at 6:06 a.m.?
Yes.
And those are all in the records that we previously admitted.
Correct.
Was there another text message from Lori Vallow's cell phone to Chad Daybell's phone on July 11th at 6:12 a.m.?
Yes.
Was there a text message from Chad Daybell's phone to Lori Vallow's phone at 7:01 a.m.?
Correct.
And another text message from Chad Daybell's phone to Lori Vallow's phone at 7:33 a.m.
Yes.
So those phone records don't show us the content of those.
No, it just shows that the message they were communicating, but her iCloud will not show the actual content of those.
Okay. Looking still at that Exhibit 223, as well as Exhibit 223, which is the 515 number associated with Chad Daybell, and looking at the T-Mobile records for Lori Vallow, Exhibit 220, Did you look at those two records to see if there was any calls or text messages between Chad Daybell's phone and Lori Vallow's phone after Charles was shot on
Yes.
July 11th?
Yes.
Was there a phone call between those two phones, Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow, on July 11th at 12:39 p.m.?
Yes, there was.
That lasted about 1 minute and 45 seconds.
Correct.
So that would have been after Lori Vallow was interviewed by the police and brought back to the residence.
Correct.
Was there no other phone call on July 11th of 2019 from Chad Daybell's phone to Lori Vallow's phone at 2:28 p.m. that lasted a little over 11 minutes?
Yes.
Is that around the time that Detective Enclan was calling Lori to have her come back to 5531 South Four Peaks?
Yes, it was.
Did you see another call between Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell at 5:42 p.m. that lasted for over 30 minutes?
I did.
And did you see another call between Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow on July 11th of 2019 at 7 p.m. that lasted approximately 11 minutes?
Yes.
And did you see a final call on July 11th between Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow at 7:54 p.m. that lasted a little over 13 minutes?
I did.
When you were looking at the text messages between Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell, or contact name Bubby, that you located in those LollyTime at iCloud account, did you notice a romantic relationship between them?
Yes, I did.
Prior to Charles being shot and killed on July 11th of 2019, did you see any open and obvious romantic messages from Chad under any of his contact names that you knew of to Lori Vallow?
I did not.
After Charles's death on July 11th, 2019, did you see any open and obvious romantic messages from Chad Daybell under any of his contact names to Lori Vallow?
I did.
Now, were there many messages and between Lori Vallow and contact name Bubby or Chad Daybell?
Yes, there were.
And again, those are all part of that, recovered as part of the search warrant on the LollyTime at iCloud account.
Yes.
In these text messages, did Chad write I'll call it, romantic story about Lori and himself that he texted and emailed to her?
He did.
Did he have other names for them?
I believe the names were James and Elena.
Did that story seem to sort of at least match the timing of when they met?
They did.
Were some of them more promiscuous?
Yes.
Did they also include conversations, though, about people like Adam and Brandon,
They did.
and about Ned?
Yes.
And my paralegal can approach with 229. And may the state will move to admit Exhibit 229.
Any objection?
Just relevance to the conspiracy, Your Honor.
All right, the proper foundation's been made. I will admit 229.
229.
229 is admitted.
So we've talked about Adam and Brandon, correct?
Yes.
And so one of the first message in this Exhibit 229 is from July 13th, so 2 days after Charles was shot and killed.
Yes.
And do we see, at this point, Chad is asking Lori, how did Adam and Brandon find out?
Correct.
And again, on the 13th at 9:51, we see Lori telling Chad, my mom, because she was so mad, she went off on Adam.
Correct.
And again, when we go back to Adam's testimony, did he indicate he learned Charles had died on the 13th
Correct.
and that he got in a fight with his mom?
Yes.
At that point, do we see then a message from Chad asking, did he have much to say in his defense?
Correct.
And Lori responds, he was very defensive and tried to justify everything, but my mom kicked him out and said she would never talk to him again. She's dramatic.
Yes.
So we had learned that Adam had been speaking with Charles and that he hadn't told his family about this intervention, right?
Correct.
And that after this, he said he lost basically all contact with his family.
Yes.
And this seems to sort of confer with that.
Correct.
Do we then see a switch over from talking about Lori's family to now Chad talking to Lori about being deeply, crazily, madly in love with Lily?
Yes.
Well,
And
Raphael.
do we see again messages to and from Lori and Chad talking about sort of their love for each other?
Correct.
So prior to this, you really had not seen this open, obvious discussions about their relationship.
I had not.
As the time continued, did you continue to see, again, messages of love, as well as a lot of calls?
I did.
Although we won't read through everything here, is this sort of part of that story you're talking about of James and Elena starting in November?
Correct.
And is November when the Preparing the People conference was here in Arizona of 2018?
Correct.
And we've heard testimony from witnesses that Chad Daybell was there.
Yes.
And you found actually a recording on the Lori for Style of Chad Daybell at the Preparing the People conference in November of 2018.
I did.
As we get to July 14th, do we see Chad then talking about cleansing the Houston house?
Clearing the Houston.
Clearing.
Yeah.
Clearing the Houston house, sorry, to remove the darkness he caused.
Correct.
So who was living in Houston?
Charles.
And had you seen and heard people testify that Charles was considered dark by Lori Vallow?
Yes.
And again, we continue to see the affirmations of love,
Yes.
the cheek to cheek and loin to loin.
Yes.
Oof. Oof.
Again, more conversations both of love in text messages as well as phone calls.
Correct.
As we continue on the 14th, did Chad, let me ask you this, where was Chad Daybell living in July of 2019?
In Idaho.
So Chad is living in Idaho, and you told us that you had seen flights of Lori to Idaho and Lori and Chad to Arizona in March of 2019.
Yes.
He's asking Lori, did everything go smoothly in ending the hotel stay and getting the car returned?
Correct.
And so we see Lori responding to him, I guess I turned in the car, but I don't know what the police did at the hotel, probably just left it.
Correct.
And so we know that the police got the key card from her and went and cleared out the hotel room.
Yes.
Do we see, again, a continuation of that story that Chad was writing to Lori Vallow?
You do.
And that continues through most of this till apparently Chad needed a shower.
Correct.
I need the shower. Break in the book. Hold on, I'm searching for my
Now,
shower.
As we, again, continue through this, are you seeing sort of every day multiple texts of love between these two?
I am, yes.
And again, going through the 17th, 16th, 17th, again, more affirmations of love, correct?
Yes.
Now, we know on the 15th of July is when Lori Vallow had called Banner Life Insurance to indicate that she was the beneficiary, right?
Correct.
And on the 18th is when she learned that she was not.
Correct.
So in Exhibit 229, do we see on July 18th at 12:18 Arizona time? So I talked to the insurance company. He changed it in March. So it was probably Ned before we got rid of him. They can't tell me to whom, of course, but it's done. I'll still get the $4,000 a month from Social Security.
Yes.
So on July 18th, after she talks with Banner Life Insurance, Lori tells Chad she's not getting the life insurance.
Correct.
But she tells him she's getting $4,000 a month from Social Security.
Correct.
Now, we know from Lori Vallow's text to Alex that she went to Social Security on August 12th, correct?
Yes.
And we also had testimony from Social Security about that.
Correct.
But here it is on July 18th of 2018, and she already knows she's going to get money from Social Security.
Correct.
Again, do you see a lot of additional continuing everyday multiple affirmations of their relationship?
I do.
And this email or this report just went through the July 18th where we have that message about the Social Security.
Yes.
Did those affirmations continue on after
Yes,
that?
they did.
So now that Charles is dead, there's a very open texting and calling relationship between Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell.
Yes.
Now, we had indicated that there were multiple contact names that were associated in the Lolly Time iCloud account to Chad Daybell.
Yes.
While you were looking at these text messages in the Lolly Time iCloud account, did you locate any for a contact name Melanie 2 with the number 2?
I did.
And in reviewing those messages, did you identify them as coming from Chad Daybell as well?
Yes. The number linked to that contact of Melanie 2 was for Chad Daybell.
Did you even see a message from Melanie 2 with an attached photo showing Chad Daybell?
Correct.
And were all those, not all of them, were there a substantial number of those messages between Melanie 2 and Lori Vallow, the same sort of romantic discussions that you saw between contact name Bubby
Yes.
and Lori?
Yes.
When you were looking at the conversation between Chad Daybell as the Bubby contact, we saw a discussion about life insurance, correct?
Correct.
Did you also see a conversation between Lori and Melanie 2, AKA Chad, about life insurance?
I did.
If I can have my paralegal approach with 288 and 230. Looking at 288 and 230, are those both one of the messages that is from Melanie 2, contact name, to Lori Vallow that was had an attached photo of Chad Daybell and another individual?
Yes.
Was that some of the information used to verify that this Melanie 2 was in fact Chad Daybell?
It was.
And then in 230, is that some of the SMS messages showing both that same romantic relationship as well as that conversation about the life insurance?
Correct.
State will move to admit 288 and 230.
Any objection?
Just the relevance, Your Honor.
288 and 230 are admitted.
So starting with 288, was this, again, a message, an MMS, so meaning there's an attached photo with it, right?
Correct.
That occurred on July 17th of 2019 from Melanie 2 contact name. And it said, I took a photo with Alan Osmond for Mark.
Correct.
And when we looked at the photo, did you ever learn what Chad Daybell looked like?
I do know what he looks like. Yes.
Is that Chad Daybell?
Yes, it is.
The one with the huge blockhead?
So this is the person that she has been texting all the romantic love affirmations with right after Charles died.
Yes,
2:30, again, we see the same sort of romantic contact between them.
correct.
And so this is, again, July 18th now, going on with another contact name for Chad Daybell in Lori's phone.
Yes,
And again, we see it's the Lolly Time iCloud account, right?
correct.
When we get to July 18th, this one, though, isn't earlier. For the Bubby one, we saw that it was a noon time message, right?
Right.
And so we learned that Lori received a email indicating she was not the beneficiary, and later she had a phone conversation.
Correct.
Does this one appear to be sort of the earlier one because it references, I just got the letter from the insurance company saying that I'm not the beneficiary. It's a spear through my heart. Who do you think he changed it to? Brandon or probably Kay? He left nothing for JJ.
Correct.
Did that conversation go on? Wow, that's terrible. There's no way to find out.
It did.
And did Lori then tell Chad, I might be able to see when I get his computer on Sunday, I could check the email sent to the insurance company. It will show change of beneficiary. He must have done it recently.
Correct.
So we had seen, in fact, photos what appeared to be from a computer that were sent to Chad Daybell, correct?
Correct.
Showing that beneficiary change.
Yes.
So does that seem to match with, again, what Lori's telling Chad here about finding out who got that money?
It does.
Does Chad then say, it seems you would have to agree to change, maybe the name was forged, you should have a good paper trail to prove it, right?
Correct.
So he's trying to help her figure out how to get that money. So you then go on to say, I love you, this is terrible. It's probably another step in bringing down, what is this?
Gaddy Anton.
Did you ever learn what that was?
I'm sure I researched it, but off the top of my head, I don't know what it is.
Okay. Did Lori then tell him, nope, he can change it anytime he wants. He's the agent and anyone can change the beneficiary anytime with their own signature. I'm thinking it must be Kay.
Correct.
So she understood, at least to Chad, that Charles had that right.
Yes.
Does Chad then say, it will be interesting if he got changed after he had 2 bullets in his chest.
Correct.
And she goes on to respond, I don't think it could have. You can't change it after the death date. They would review that.
Correct.
And then she goes on to say again, I'm thinking Kay as well. Or he says, I'm thinking Kay as well. She probably freaking out that you got those computers. I'm going to shower and give you a blessing. I'm eager to get home so we can talk. It will be okay, my love. You are wonderful.
Correct.
And then she says, miss you so much. And he responds, miss you the most.
Yes.
So during this conversation, we see Chad and Lori discussing who this likely would have gone to and when it could have been changed, right?
Yes.
And that all occurred before the second conversation we see, also on the 18th, but closer to, I think, 12:30, 12:34, where she knows now it was changed in March.
Correct.
And in that, we see Chad referring to the 2 shots to the chest, right?
Yes.
So again, we know they've been talking about this. Did you see any other text messages talking about that?
I did not.
But we saw lots of phone calls between the 2 on the 11th.
Sure.
Now, as we have been talking through this conversation and much of this trial, we have referred to the defendant as Lori Vallow.
Correct.
And that's because she was married to Charles Vallow when he was shot on July 11th of 2019, right?
Yes.
During your review of those Lolly time at iCloud accounts, did you find evidence of when she became Lori Daybell?
I did.
Did you see a contract for the wedding?
I did.
Did you see wedding photos?
I did.
Where was that wedding?
Hawaii?
I can have my paralegal approach with 233.
Blooping. Bloop, 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 bloop. Well, it says we're live. What? How are we live? How disturbing. Did I bloop us to live? Wow. No bueno.
Looking at Exhibit 233 is that the report as well as the actual document that was in the lollytime@icloud.com account that you reviewed that the police obtained through a search warrant relating to when Lori Vallow became Lori Daybell.
Correct.
State will move to admit 233.
Any objection?
Relevance.
233 is admitted.
So the first part of this, we see that, again, it notes that this is an image that was from the account, from the Lollytom iCloud account from 1031, correct? And then this is the actual photograph that was uploaded into the iCloud account, correct?
Correct.
So we see Chad Daybell and Lori Ryan. Was Lori Ryan a prior name of Lori Vallow?
Yes.
That was Tylee Ryan's dad?
Correct.
So she used the Lori Ryan name in this. They use a home address of Rexburg, Idaho at that point.
Correct.
And then the date of the actual wedding is that November 5th of 2019.
Yes, it is.
So 4 months after Charles Vallow is shot and killed inside of the defendant's home, she has remarried to the man, Chad Daybell.
Yes.
I have no other questions for this witness.
All right. Let's see what this cross is going to be like. This should be amazing.
Detective Duncan, when did you become the case agent?
I believe it was June of 2020.
Okay. And prior to you being the case agent, it was Detective Moffett?
Moffett, yes.
Is that correct? And was it because he got promoted that they made you the case agent over this case? or-
Yes.
Okay. And he's now a lieutenant, is that correct?
Yes, he is.
Okay. And so he was the case, was there anyone in between? Was he the case agent the whole time until 2020 when you took over?
Correct.
Okay. And when you took over the case, what things did you do differently?
I wouldn't say differently. I continued what I was doing. I was looking at records for him. The records in this case, as you are, there's volumes of records. So continued to look at all of the independent iCloud records, call detail records, phone extractions, and also kind of reviewing what he had done prior to my assignment is what I'd done.
Right, so kind of reviewing and seeing what you need to look at.
Correct.
So is this, from what I was understanding what you were saying earlier, is this, you weren't really involved in the case since July 11th and now you're back involved in the case?
So July 11th, obviously, I was there at the house.
Right.
Shortly after that, I had another homicide and my time was occupied with that. And it was several months later that I offered to help look at records because they were so much. And I'd always done that kind of in the background, but never really took a deep dive into them until that June 2020.
Okay. But you were kind of involved, so you kind of knew what was going on in the investigation during
Somewhat,
during that time, that year in between,
yeah.
before you became the case agent.
correct.
But not totally deep dive, but you kind of knew what was going on.
I understood it.
Okay.
Yes.
That's good. So let's go over that day again real quick. When you were there, what time were you there at the scene, from when to when?
I believe I arrived shortly after
Action asked and
9:15,
answered.
Okay.
and I would have left probably 4:30.
Okay. Were you at the house that whole time?
Yes.
So
Well,
you didn't,
let me back
oh,
up.
I'm sorry, go
I
ahead.
did leave for a short period of time to obtain a saw that we would need to cut that piece of flooring out and the baseboard.
Okay.
But then it came back, yes,
So you were at the scene that whole time, besides the time you went to get the saw?
correct.
You didn't go to the Chandler Police Department?
No.
So you weren't there during our interviews?
No.
Okay. So, and you had mentioned something about you couldn't go in, I was confused. You couldn't go in until after the search warrant, but you were in before that, right?
No. So obviously your first responders, your police officers, the firefighters, they're going in to preserve life and treat the victim in this case. Then they back out. At that point, we will not let anybody in, given the circumstances of this case, until a search warrant is actually signed and executed. So we will wait outside the threshold of the house until that search warrant is signed, and then we will begin our investigation.
So I'm still confused. So you didn't go into the house until after the search warrant, or you did get to go in beforehand?
No, I didn't go in before. I waited until after the search warrant.
Okay. So you had testified, I'm still confused, sorry.
And I'm going to object again to the defendant testifying.
Just ask the question.
You had also indicated that you had gone in and that Charles was on the floor. Is that correct?
I think the question was asked of me is, what did I see when I went in? And so that, and I would say after the search warrant, we went in, that's what I saw.
But he was already gone in the ambulance at that point?
He never went in an ambulance.
Charles didn't go in the ambulance?
No, he went with the medical examiner's office.
Yeah, he was dead, Lori.
So what time did he leave?
I can't give you a specific time on that. I have to look at the medical examiner's office information for that.
But it was after you entered at 11:50?
Yes, it was way after that.
Okay. So then when you entered, what did you do at that point? Can you kind of walk me through that?
Yeah, so when I entered, obviously I made my general observations about what I saw in that room and of the body. And then talked with Detective Coons about what needed to be done next.
And what did you guys do next?
So we came up with a game plan as far as how to process the scene, which direction, who was going to do what. Like I indicated, I was tasked with collecting that firearm and was also tasked with kind of looking through the house for any kind of blood evidence that might be present. The other task that I had when we were ready, I contacted the medical examiner's office to report the death to them.
What time about was that call, do you think?
I do not know.
But sometime in between that, before 4:30, is that correct?
Correct.
And did everyone leave the scene at 4:30? Is that kind of the timing when people were clearing out, or?
Yeah, some might have stayed behind, and a lot of our ID techs like to sit in their cars and type their notes, that type of thing. But right around that 4:30, 4:45 is when the search warrant was completed.
Okay. And then there had been a walkthrough, is that correct?
Yes,
And so Alex had come back to the house just after 3-ish?
I believe that could have been the time, yes.
Okay. And then were you present during the walkthrough?
I was.
And who else was present?
Detective Moffett, Detective Werther, Detective Coons, myself, and I want to say crime scene technician Jordan might have been there as well.
Okay. And was it Jordan that was wearing a body cam? Was there a body cam made of that?
No, I believe that Detective Werther had a body cam, but it malfunctioned and didn't capture.
So there's no recording of that at all?
No.
And Detective Moffett was the case agent at that point, right? Because he had been assigned that already?
Yes.
Okay. And so did each of you write reports on that walkthrough then, since there was no recording of it?
That would have all been included in our original, in our report, not a specific walkthrough report, but in our original narrative, yes.
Everyone would talk about it, mention it, their perspective?
Not everybody has to, as long as somebody or one or two people wrote about it to know that it happened. Yeah.
Right. So since there's no recording of it, though, someone is assigned, like, because Moffett is the case agent, or who would do that? Be assigned to include it in the report, for sure?
It's different. I'll give you the example. If you look at probably my report compared to Detective Coon's report, you might notice, similarities in there. You might notice stuff that I went into more detail on, or he went into more detail. But it depends on whether they write it or not. They could just put something as simple, I was present during a walkthrough.
Okay. So since you became the case agent, have you read all the reports?
At one time or another, yes, I have.
So is there anyone specific that kind of ran through what happened at the walkthrough?
Your Honor, I object to asked and answered and relevance.
Thank you. Finally,
To,
Jesus.
Asked and answered.
Did you write about it in your report?
I'm going to object again to relevance, hearsay, asked and answered.
Sustained as the asked and answered. He already answered that.
You mentioned that it was Detective Werther who had the body cam, is that correct?
Again, asked and answered.
All this shit.
So
What, like this
Sustained.
prosecutor just pulled
Did
her
you
head out
read
of her
his
ass. I
report?
said that 10 minutes ago.
have read his
All of
report,
this is
yes.
just her
did he
repeating
mention
everything
the
he's already
walkthrough and what
said.
And
happened?
I'm going to object
Ugh.
again to relevance, hearsay,
Asked and
asked and
answered.
answered.
To the extent that it would call for a hearsay answer, I'll sustain the objection.
Lori's avoiding any questions of substance like the plague. Asking a bunch of inane bullshit. Who gives a shit about everything she's asked?
Detective, when you became the case agent, you were kind of aware, so you knew what had been done in the investigation, is that correct?
Yes,
And so you knew who had been interviewed, is that correct?
yes,
And you knew what had been tested or not tested at that point?
correct.
So the bat was tested for fingerprints. We learned that in the testimony, is that correct?
Correct.
And the results were inconclusive.
Correct.
And so there were no latent prints were identified. That's correct.
Correct.
And there were prints, but we just don't know whose they were. Is that accurate?
Sounds about right, yes.
Now, we learned that the bat was swabbed for DNA and sent to the lab. Is that correct?
Yes.
And was that ever tested?
No, it was not.
Oh my
And why
God.
not?
When making this decision, you have to look at the probative value of.
Okay, her asking a different cop shit that we already know the answers to is ridiculous. I do not know why this prosecutor is just letting her drone on with this shit. Like, seriously, she should be objecting. Not only would it serve to shut this shit down, it would completely throw Lori off of her game if she has a game at all. I mean, I don't understand why this prosecutor is just sitting here. Like, typically the move always with the pro se opponent is to object your face off because they don't know how to deal with them. Lori's like, she's got like a little list of questions that she's going through that she was writing in her cell. Oh, this is a good one. Oh, this is a good, and if she gets objected to, the judge shuts her down. She's not going to know where to go. She's not going to know what to do. She wants to avoid every question of substance that has to deal with those text messages like the plague. Like the plague. I mean, the prosecutor needs to up the game here.
Of that and what that would show or what a test would prove. DNA and fingerprints are not time specific. That bat was owned by Tylee, to our knowledge. It was in a household where you lived. It was in a household where Alex was. And at one point, based on the fact of when we understood the bat to have been purchased, Charles was living in the house as well. So that bat was accessible to all those people. So if at one point during that time that person touched that bat, all that it would be saying is that somebody touched that bat at some point, not during this incident.
Right.
Oh, we're glad you agree with that concept, Lori.
But there was no blood found on the bat, is that correct?
Correct.
But would that be able to be told from DNA?
There was nothing that was visible that could see, like if blood dries or anything like that. There was nothing that would indicate that here's a spot we need to test for that particular, for blood.
Right, but would DNA tell if there was blood? Could they find out if there was blood on the bat from the DNA test?
Once again, blood is, you would see if it dries and crusts, then you would see that particular blood. DNA comes in many forms. It can come in touch, it can come in sweat, blood, but you would think that blood would be visible at that point to be able to test.
What about
And we did not see
invisible
anything
blood?
like that.
Have you ever seen invisible blood?
Okay, so if there was none of Alex's DNA on the blood, wouldn't that tell us something? I mean, on the bat at all, then wouldn't that tell us something?
If there were none of Alex's, it would just mean that Alex never touched that bat at any time.
And wouldn't it tell us that Alex was never hit in the head with that bat?
Once again, it's not specific. I can't, if there was blood on the bat,
Mhm.
then yes, we would test for that. But there's no visible blood on the bat.
I understand that, but when you're doing an investigation, are you not trying to figure out what happened?
Yes, and that's what we
Don't
did.
you want all the information to do that?
Oh my God. Hey, jackass, there was no visible blood on the bat. Like, what is she talking about? Is she suggesting that they swabbed the entire bat on the off chance that they could have found Alex's DNA somewhere around there, which would be useless if it's not blood? If it's not something that looks like a brown, orange, rust colored material that indicates that it could be blood. I mean, I don't know what she's doing here. This is ridiculous.
Yes.
And so whose responsibility would it be to request the DNA testing from the swab that was taken?
Once again, that would just show, it's not showing that it's blood. There's no blood on the bat. It was just showing that a DNA swab was taken of that particular area.
I think she's continuing on with this shit because either Alex popped himself in the head or she hit him in the head with the bat in order to sell this story that he was hitting the head with the bat, and she's pissed off that nobody found the blood. That, like, I mean that's the only reason she's asking this shit. You know what I mean? It doesn't make any sense if she knows that Alex wasn't actually, like, something caused that little injury on the back of his head. And if she was smart, if they were smart, she would have said, all right, well, here, I got bad news. I at least have to hit you in the head. I won't do it that hard. But we have to cause some kind of injury. Otherwise, they're not going to believe your story, Alex. Beep, 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 beep. Ugh, I can't stand her.
To be able to test later on, but there's no discoloration that would show any kind of blood.
And who in the Chandler Police Department would be requesting that DNA to be tested? Who would have to do that?
That'd
is my
be me.
question. It would
As
be
the,
you.
as the new case agent, that would be me, or Detective Moffat at the beginning.
And so Detective Moffat never did that, is that correct?
Correct.
And you never did that, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So
Right.
if Charles' DNA was on
Exactly,
the
I mean-
bat, then wouldn't that tell us something also?
Did he touch the bat at some point?
Right.
Yeah, that he took it from Tylee, like,
No,
She
that
said
doesn't
in her
mean that,
interview.
you idiot.
And I'm going to object and move to
Sustain.
strike that.
The jury should disregard that last question. That information is not in evidence.
Detective, wouldn't that have answered some questions for us in your investigation?
No,
I don't think it would have, no.
it wouldn't have.
We learned that the gun in testimony, that the gun was tested just last month, is that correct?
Correct.
And who requested that test?
I did.
And why did you request that test?
So on firearms, immediately after we have a firearm case, we have the ability to utilize a system called NIBIN. NIBIN is run through the ATF, and what NIBIN will do is we can fire a particular firearm that we have control over and obtain casings from those. We could then take the casings from the scene casings and then compare those together. We already knew that that gun fired those casings very early in the investigation, as a NIBIN report provided. However, ATF will not testify in court. So playing the balancing game of when a trial will begin and whether a trial will even happen, I do not like to make more work for a firearm analyst than I have to. When we know that we are in and going to trial, then I will send that over to them because they were the ones that will testify to that.
Okay. So it wasn't after my investigator suggested that none of the guns had been tested
No,
that you
no.
ordered that test?
I never spoke to your investigator about that anyway either.
Okay. So Detective, when did the Chandler Police Department take possession of the gun?
On July 11th?
And then it was tested in March, is that correct?
Correct.
And then we've established through expert testimony of Detective Coons that the floorboard was not tested either, is that correct?
Correct.
And he also established that the projectile was not tested either, is that correct?
Correct.
And Detective Coons also confirmed that no tests were done on my husband's shirt, is that correct?
Correct.
And then when you became the case agent on this case, why didn't you request any of these tests?
Because I was confident that based on the medical examiner's report of an entry wound to the lower left quadrant, an exit wound to the upper left rear shoulder, and a corresponding defect, or what I would refer to as a bullet strike in the floor, if you take those 3 points and match them up, then there's no other explanation other than Charles was laying on the ground at that time.
So the medical examiner said he could not say that he was laying on the ground for sure, but you're saying that in your detective opinion, you know that for sure?
I believe so, yes.
And so were you there to witness it with your eyes?
No.
Detective, to your knowledge, did my brother and my daughter and myself willingly comply with everything asked of us by law enforcement on July 11th, 2019?
I can't speak to that, no.
Did we answer all the questions asked to us?
I have nothing to say you didn't.
Did we follow all directions given to us by law enforcement that day?
I'm going to object to speculation and foundation as to how this detective knows that. He's already said he wasn't at the station.
He's the case agent, Your Honor.
He can testify to what he observed for himself. So if you want to tailor your question, go ahead.
Would you say that according to every report and every detective that you've talked to and anything else that you would say that we fully complied with law enforcement that day on July 11th, 2019?
Object to hearsay.
I'm going to sustain the objection to the form that it was asked.
So according to all the reports that have been given by everyone who was there, and you're the case agent, so you're in charge of all of these people, is that correct?
I'm not in charge of them, but I have read the reports.
So you have read the reports.
Okay.
And as far as you know, to your knowledge, we fully cooperated with law enforcement that day on July 11th, 2019?
And again, object to hearsay.
See, what Lori doesn't understand is police reports are hearsay. That's why when you watch trials, they never come in. All police reports, they're not considered to be a business record. They're considered to be straight up hearsay. She's asking a question that requires him to use hearsay in order to answer, meaning that he read something off a report. So she can keep asking this a million times the same stupid way, and the state will keep making the same objection. Like she just says, like this is why I hire a lawyer. She has no idea what she's doing. Doesn't know how to ask this
And
question.
lack of personal knowledge.
Sustained.
Has it come to your knowledge that we did not comply with everything?
And I would object to the exact same thing, lack of personal knowledge and hearsay.
He can answer that question.
Can you answer? Can you ask that again?
Have you come to the knowledge that we did not comply that day for any reason?
I have not.
Okay. Did I turn my husband's phone over when asked?
Yes.
Did Alex turn his phone over willingly?
I am not sure when Alex or if Alex turned his phone on. I'm not aware of that. I can't.
Okay. So is there a body cam where his phone was placed into an evidence bag? That's correct.
I do remember seeing that, yes.
And then the evidence bag is put into the front of the police car where he was taken to the Chandler Police Department. Is that correct?
I didn't see that, but I trust the fact that it was taken at that time, yes.
And so according to that body cam, it looked like he turned it over on request.
And I'm going to object to speculation.
You don't have any knowledge that he didn't, is that correct?
I'll allow that last question.
I don't have knowledge, no.
Okay. So do you know who had taken possession of his phone at that point?
I don't.
Do you know who drove him to the Chandler Police Department?
Well, through this hearing, Officer Krautheim.
Oh, that's right. The one I couldn't remember how to spell. I mean,
Again, Your Honor.
pronounce.
Sustained, please don't testify.
Was a copy of Alex's phone made by the Chandler Police Department?
I don't know.
You don't know?
There's so much information. I don't know whether we received just his call detail records or an actual copy was made. I don't know.
You mean an
So you're
extraction?
the case agent.
Yeah, I'd have to look and see if that was the case.
So you're the case agent, and you don't know if the person who shot my husband's phone was ever,
At this moment, I don't recall.
so there's no cell bride of it. Is that correct? In the discovery?
I think the only thing that we have is his call detail records, which would be from his cellular provider.
So what would the typical protocol be for you if someone handed over their phone, wouldn't it be to do a digital download of it?
So that can be one of two ways. It could be under a search warrant to do that, or it can be under consent to do that. I do not believe I don't believe that his phone was extracted at that time.
So he would have to give consent? Is that what you're saying?
Or a search warrant?
But that would have been
Yes,
through
you just
Detective
said that.
So Detective Moffett would have had to get a search warrant and then he would download it?
based on their conversation, whether Alex would be willing to do that or whether a search warrant was needed, but that was Detective Moffitt's call at that time.
And he decided not to do that.
I don't know.
I don't
Ask
know what his
Moffett,
process
Pinhead.
is, or his thought process.
Well, I'm saying that he did not do that, and you're the case agent now, so you would know if that was done, correct?
You're asking me to speak for Detective Moffett, whether it was done or not?
No, I'm asking you to speak as a case agent now if you know if it was done or not.
I told
I
you, I don't
believe
think
it
it
was
was
not.
done.
Okay.
Asked and answered. Move on.
Do you think that would be important to your investigation?
Absolutely, knowing what we know now, yes.
Yeah, it would have been nice to get all
Okay,
your
you're a
deleted
detective,
shit.
right?
Correct,
You have to look at all the angles, right?
correct.
You don't know what happened, right? You
Oh,
just
we know
stated
what
that you weren't
happened.
there, right?
Wait, she's not
Correct.
allowing him to
So
answer
wouldn't that be
objection.
crucial information that the police department didn't bother to take?
Once again, I don't know what the conversation with Detective Moffett and Alex was and what his reasoning for not. Would I have taken it? Yes,
But that was not your call at the time.
correct.
And so in lieu of that, what did you do to try to obtain that information?
We got his call detail records through his company.
And so is it safe to say that it's much better to have the actual phone to do the extraction so that you can have everything that was on the phone?
Yeah, but you can also obtain a lot of that stuff through other means, through iCloud records, Google records. But yeah, it is nice to have that phone.
So would you call that an oversight by Detective Moffett?
Object to speculation.
Sustained.
So was the phone then returned to Alex that day?
Yes,
Yeah, I mean, if this cop was smart, if Nathan would pull his head out of his ass, he needs to fire back. Yeah, I wish that we would have extracted it because we would have found all of his deleted text messages to you, which probably would have shown us more evidence of the conspiracy. You know, I mean, he's got to fire back on her. Like it's weird that he's not. It really is. It's strange to me.
How did that happen? Was it just handed to him or?
I'm not sure.
Okay. And that would have also been Detective Moffat's call.
Correct,
And we haven't heard from Detective Moffett, is that correct?
correct.
So according to your knowledge, that when Alex was called by Chandler Police to return to the scene for the walkthrough by detectives, he did so, is that correct?
Yes, he did.
You saw him there?
Yes.
And did he answer everyone's questions while you were there, that you observed?
Yes, he did. There was very little questioning. It was just more of a positional type thing. It was, where were you?
It was more, I'm sorry, I missed that last part.
Where was he? Where was he standing during the time?
Oh. And so he kind of walked it through with you and all four of you were there, right? Or
Yes.
5. And no one was asking him any questions?
Your Honor, I'm going to, again, we've already gone through this before.
Oh,
asked and
shit.
answered, as
Thank
well
you.
as Verging on hearsay.
I'm going to sustain the objection. How much do you have left on your cross, you would think?
I don't know, Your Honor, a lot.
In other words, more than a couple minutes. Should we take our afternoon break?
Oh, yes, we
All
should
right.
take a break.
Let's take our afternoon break for staff. It'll be about 15 minutes. Please remember the admonition.
Oh God. And Lori's stupid ass probably thinks she's crushing it. That's the best thing about this. She absolutely thinks she's crushing this. I guarantee it.
I
wanna see if I wanna see if I saw a
Please remember the
stupid little-
admonition.
Yeah, see that little smirk?
Minutes, please remember
Look
the
at her.
admonition.
Watch. Look at her. Pause it. Right there. She's got this stupid little smirk on her face. You dirty so-and-so. Where is she? I want to see. Oh God. I won't be able to stop it. You'll just have to believe me. Ugh, she's so annoying. God, I can't stand her. Ugh. I'll be fine. Allie's going to actually tap in here. You guys are going to get a little Allie action. I've got Monday and Wednesdays. We got practice, and so I have to dip. She's gonna bring you home. She's gonna bring you on home. I'm kind of waiting for her to jump on. So you guys will get some alley. And remember, I have wait, what did you ask, Miku? I didn't see the question. Cheddar Bob, is this the witness who was too sick yesterday? I'm not sure if Duncan was the guy who was sick. I'm assuming because he was the next witness. Like they finished up with I think it was Wycan or Wyclin, whatever the hell that cop's name is. And then this guy's been on the stand the whole day. So I'm assuming that this was the guy who was sick. He doesn't look all that sick. 8:30 tonight for our members only. It's there. You guys should see it. And it'll be fun. We're gonna go through all your voicemails that you sent, and we'll have a good time. It'll be low key, chilling, hanging, off duty type shit. So you guys will enjoy it. All right, hold tight. I'm gonna see where Allie is, see if she can hop on.
He's young.
Social Security then. You got over 62.
Hey guys, I'm gonna remove Bob's screen here.
Are you on a live?
So we're on a lunch break, but I have no idea what happened. So you guys are gonna have to tell me some stuff because Bob has told me nothing. And let's start with, did the prosecution, like, boom, prove their case, like with the text messages? Afternoon break. All right, I better get it booted up so that I'm kind of ready with it. Then I'll come back and see what you guys are telling me. What am I going to? Ay, ay, ay. YouTube. Bob said he didn't use Law and Crime because they were like, they had no sound for the longest time. So I'm gonna put it on and hope it works. If it doesn't, we'll switch over. Okay. All right. So let's see what you guys have had to say. All right. So we've got not enough. The texts help, but they need more. Thanks, Dom's mom. We've got she's firing pretty hard. Vallow prosecutor. Nah, not so much. Very convoluted. All right. That's Lindsay Bay's position. We've got gray space. They got all the text in, but she's going to have to really put it together in closing. Damn, guys, you're scaring me. It sounds like it was not really all we hoped it would be. Lion says it was so much chaos with the texts that I hope the jury will figure it out. Ay, ay, ay. Grilled burgers. Hi. Tracy says we're on a smoke break. Nexus Lexus thinks there's a ton of reasonable doubt. History and homicide, but I think the prosecution showed that Lori is cray-cray and was banging the Chadster. Well, I don't think that would be hard to show. Again, we'll have to see if cray-cray actually ends up excusing some of the conduct that otherwise would have been seen as a guilty mind or as motive or anything, you know, that's been my concern from kind of day one with this. Afton says they got closer. They didn't bring it home. Anaya says, I'm hoping in closing they can bring it all together. And Camilla said, why can the DA read the text and not the witness? I don't know. That was super frustrating. Thanks, Tammy, for your generosity, and Camilla for your generosity. Let's see, where was I? And R says they did read the text that says we got rid of him, which, because all this other stuff was introduced, the jury can say, well, she was crazy talking about the demon. So could it be that? Grayspace says, I think Lori is shooting herself in the foot with her cross, to be honest. All right, we'll have to see. I'll have to see that. History and Homicide says, Allie, you would have been raging. Kathy agrees. We got rid of Ned. Was the closest. So was it we got rid of Ned or him? Because we got rid of Ned just kind of drives home that this wasn't, something wasn't right in her head, and again might explain some of what might have been suspicious behavior before, kind of explain it as suspicious, but because she's crazy. Miku says, Lori is being insane, Allie. That's about it. All right, guys. Well, jeez. Dom's mom says, I hate to say it, but her cross of this witness feels more effective than the other crosses she's done. But I think Bob was saying that too. It was a lot of texts.
I'm going to advise the defendant that
Don't open the door.
anything that this witness read in another officer's report, he can't testify to whether those things are true or not unless it fits into some exception to hearsay or non-hearsay for you to establish that. So please don't ask any questions that he can't verify. He can testify to things that he observed, saw, or heard. But again, if you're referencing another report that another
So again, I didn't see this, but we see it all the time where they ask one officer through the course of your investigation, did you learn? They're not asking him where he learned it, how he learned it, and often they're relying on information that they learned from other officers. They there's often exceptions that come into play when officers are working together in a joint investigation, that they're allowed to rely on information that of the other reports that the other officers learned as well. It depends on the context of how you're asking it, when you're asking it, what you're trying to get out. But did the judge make this warning sua sponte? Because if so, I don't appreciate that he lets the prosecution get away with murder. Just total disregard for the rules of the courtroom. Damn it. Oh, I thought I lost the the window.
officer wrote, if you're referencing another report that another officer wrote, he won't be able to testify whether the contents of those reports are true or not unless he has some sort of personal knowledge.
Might be
I
about the way she's
understand,
asking
All right,
the
let's
question.
you can come back up.
It's not, is this true? It's just during the course of your investigation, did you learn? Oh, I forgot we're live. I'm trying to bloop over here.
All right, thank you. The jury is now present. You may be seated. You can continue with your cross-examination of this witness.
Detective Duncan, in all those text messages, we saw a lot of people. Did you interview our mother, Janice Cox?
I did not.
Did you read or watch her interview?
I have not.
Did you interview our sister, Summer Shiflett?
I did not.
Did you read or watch her interview?
No.
Did you interview our father, Barry Cox?
No.
Did you read or watch his interview?
No.
So the only source that you have for this investigation of the shooter in your case is through our brother Adam? Is that correct?
And all of the contacts mentioned through your iClouds.
Yeah, but you didn't ask anybody who was mentioned in there or who was speaking in there what they meant by any of those text messages?
Well, none of the people that you mentioned were present during this incident. So you're asking about the
Neither
actual
was
day
Adam.
of July 11th, if I asked them about that day or about the text messages?
About the text messages themselves. Like, did you ask my mother what she meant in that text message when she wrote it?
No.
Did you ask my sister what she meant in those text messages?
No.
Did you ask Melanie, my niece, what she meant in those text messages?
No.
Did you ask me what I meant in those text messages?
I couldn't.
Okay. And through your investigation, you found out that, as you testified earlier, that Alex wouldn't text or call Adam back. Is that correct?
I'm not interpreting as far as he wouldn't do it. What I'm saying is I don't see it. So if there's a message there and there's a text, there's no indication that there was a callback or a text back.
So it looked like that he wasn't calling him or texting him back, even though he was getting calls and texts. Is that correct?
And then Adam also testified that he did not receive a call or a text back,
So-
which would be consistent with the records.
Hearsay.
So the only person in our family, in our whole family, that you got information from was the estranged brother from our family who didn't know what was going on with everybody else.
I object to the form of the question,
I don't.
argumentative.
Well, it's also compound. I'll sustain the objection.
Okay, so Adam, our estranged brother, is the only one that you got information from. Is that correct?
I object to the form of the question.
Sustained.
Just say Adam is the only person got information from.
So is this your normal protocol to just talk to one witness and not all the others?
No,
Why didn't you speak to any other member of my family?
a lot of members of the family have been spoken to.
But you were not privy to any of that information as the case agent?
Well, I was privy to the interviews that were conducted by other detectives.
And you just testified to me that you didn't read or watch any of those interviews. Is that correct?
I have been present during an interview or a phone call with Summer, and been present during a phone call in this process, but I have never interviewed them.
How many interviews has Summer had with the police departments?
Objection, speculation.
If you know.
Police agent.
If he knows.
I don't know.
More than one or two?
I don't know.
Okay, but you knew of at least one,
That Summer has had?
correct?
Yes.
But you didn't ask her any of these questions or any of the questions about the text messages that you just talked about that were on the screen with Summer?
I said no.
Okay. So as the case agent and a detective, do you form a suspicion and then stick to it and only investigate the things that lead you to that same conclusion?
No.
Yes, she is, Ashley. Some of it he is too, Tay.
You had testified earlier about the story of Nephi, is that correct?
Yes.
And you said that you researched it, is
I
that
did.
correct? What research did you do?
Well, the very basic research. I Googled who is Nephi. What does Nephi stand
Oh.
for? I've also, through this process, over the
Oh,
last,
wow. So again, we are allowing Google in the courtroom. I Googled it. I mean, just mark it down, people, because it's not going to be much longer where you're going to be able to ask a computer all your questions. Because I've been telling my kids for at least the last year, probably two, that in the near future, you'll try to get on the internet and ask a question. What color is the sky? The sky is green. You walk on it with your feet. I mean, when things go crazy, AI is not going to answer your questions anymore. The interwebs will not be doing our work for us. That's at least my opinion. But, was there any objection at the time? Like he's sitting here talking about hearsay that he learned on Google? Wow. All right.
what does Nephi stand for? I Googled who is Nephi. What does Nephi stand for? I've also, through this process, over the last 4 or 5 years, have asked other members of the church just a simple question: tell me about Nephi. And every single person I talk to tells me that
Wow.
same story that was told by Adam.
So are you aware that there's 15 books in the Book of Mormon?
I am not.
Are you aware that 4 of those books are books of Nephi?
I am not.
That there's Nephi 1, 1st Nephi, 2nd Nephi, 3rd Nephi, 4th Nephi?
No, I'm not.
Okay. That there's many stories of Nephi. Is that correct? Or do you don't know?
I don't know.
So the very first story is the story that,
I'm going to object to testifying.
I think this is all right.
Sounds like that's the way it was going. So
So
Please
far,
just
she's
ask
fine.
questions.
So you did not read the Book of Mormon?
No,
You did not read First Nephi?
no.
You just asked people. That was your research?
I asked members of that particular church, and I also did an internet search, yes.
So you did an internet search and it gave you all the stories of Nephi?
That's the story that came up.
So
I
how
did it,
long
and
did
that's
you do
not
that
what
research
first
for?
came up.
Uh,
All right, let's do it. Let's do it. And I'll just Google because tell me about Nephi in the Mormon religion. Nephi is a central figure in the book, serving as a prophet and a leader who guides his family and people of Lehi in their journey to America. He is known for his obedience, faith, and dedication to God, even when faced with challenges from his brothers. So that's what you first get. You get that goes on to say Nephi was the fourth son of Lehi, a prophet who commanded God to lead his family. God commanded Nephi to record the history of his people. That's and his own experiences and teachers. Nephi was the author of the Book of Mormon's first book, which primarily focused on his personal experiences. Nephi demonstrates strong faith and obedience to God, even when his brothers are rebellious and uncooperative. Nephi builds the Lihona, a divinely guided instrument that helps guide his family on their journey to the promised land. Nephi emphasizes the importance of believing in Jesus Christ and his teachings. Founder of the Nephite civilization. Nephi and his descendants are the founders of the Nephite civilization, a righteous people who eventually fall into wicked and are destroyed. This is all the like what I'm getting here. There's nothing like this that starts to talk about about the actual story he spoke to until you actually, if you go into the Mormon website, into the Book of Mormon, where I read it from you, for those of you who were here for that, directly from the Book of Mormon. The next thing it says, the first major figure in the Book of Mormon, Nephi, is regarded by members of the Latter-day Saint movement, as these people, as that would be where she's kind of splintered off from, as a prophet, political leader, and record keeper. Bergen points out that Nephi shares some semblance to Moses, such as being a colonial leader. So, I mean, there's what he'd find if he Googled it. And I wish he could pull up a computer and just Google it right here.
I couldn't tell you. Story that came up.
Sure it did, buddy.
So how long did you do that research for?
I couldn't tell you.
So in your research, did you discover that there's about 25 stories of Nephi in that Book of Mormon?
I didn't see that, no.
And that there's 4 different prophets that are called Nephi in the Book of Mormon?
I'm going to again object
He said he
as
did
to
research.
testifying, and the detective has already indicated.
This is showing that his
So ask
research
to
was
answer.
limited to what he
I'll-
wanted to find.
Overrule the objection. He can ask if he knows that or not.
What was the question? Sorry.
I'm sorry, I can't remember. Can the court reporter tell
There's
us?
4 different
Lori was married to
people
Moroni.
referred to as Nephi.
Yeah, 4 different prophets in the Book of Mormon that are Nephi. Are you aware of that?
No.
Okay. So isn't it true that you really have no idea what I was referring to when I referenced Nephi in my text message?
I can only go off of what I see. I can't tell you what you're thinking or what you're trying to relay
Right,
there.
leave it right
But
there,
based
Lori.
on my knowledge and based on talking to people about who is Nephi, that is a story that came up consistently.
You relayed to the jury that it was in order to kill. You relayed to the jury.
I said that the story was the same story and similar to Adam told.
Okay, and you said it earlier that that was in order to kill. that I referenced Nephi. I will be like Nephi and you will be like Nephi. To the jury here today.
Ask a question. That's the statement, not a question.
Well, didn't you tell the
Do
jury?
you have
that?
knowledge that my text message meant that at all?
No.
Don't ask another question on this. Move on. That was the answer you needed.
Are you aware through all of your investigation of this case that my brother was a stand-up comedian, Alex?
I had heard that, yes.
And that everything is a joke to Alex?
I can't speak for that.
So when you're interpreting all these text messages and making all these assumptions, half of them could be jokes and you would not know that?
Objection, speculation.
No, that's true. That's valid, Your Honor. Bullshit.
Were you speculating when you read my text messages?
Yes.
I think I'm just reading your text messages. I don't think I was drawing any
Interpreting.
inference from them. I was just simply reading them.
What?
Well, today you were explaining them to the jury. Is that true?
Those were read. There was no explanation as to what it meant.
I didn't see it, guys. Did he say that when she wrote Nephi, that was an order to kill? Is she properly conveying his testimony? All right. He didn't. He did not say that. She's like hearing what she wants to hear. All right. You guys are all saying the same thing. All right. Best chat in the land.
As the case agent, what is your communication with the other investigators in this case?
What do you mean by other investigators?
So who is on your team? Who is working for you on this case right now?
I'm the only person working on the case right now. Back in the, when we were investigating it, it would have been myself and Detective Coons. And then periodically we'd have Detective Werther do some work for us if we needed it.
Well, if the prosecutor's asking him the question and he's answering it, then basically it's him saying it. Was that happening? All right. Everyone's like, nah, that wasn't, she didn't really say it like that either. But then Mary says, then yes. But Alessi never sleeps, agrees with Gray Space. So whatever. It sounds like she's definitely taking it out of context. Some yes, some no. But move on, Lori, because you're not going to, he's an experienced witness and he's not going to, he gave you the best you're going to get that he really doesn't know what you were thinking.
And then do you guys communicate through emails or calls or text messages, or how does that work?
Well, unfortunately, we're cramped in a small little area, so we have the ability to just talk to each other.
So no reports are really made of that communication. You're just talking?
Correct.
And being a detective, is your job basically to be an investigator and search out facts concerning what happened?
Yes,
Do you feel like you've done that in this case?
I do.
So by not testing any of those things, you feel like you've done everything you could possibly do to tell the jury and to tell us what happened that day on July 11th, even though you weren't present?
Correct.
He's
You're
not gonna say
confident in
what-
that?
I'm confident.
Of course he is. He would say nothing else. Why don't you keep asking him how sure he is that you're...
Did you have to meet with Detective Moffett to review the case when you made this transfer?
No,
So he didn't give you any heads up on what was happening?
well, before he left, he just dropped the case notebook on my desk and then went on his way.
It's like, case notebook, I want that. Where's that?
We have
So-
had conversations before then and since, but nothing in detail.
So you didn't say what's been tested or what hasn't been tested
No, that's for me to go back through and look at.
through reports?
Correct.
He said he got a
Okay.
notebook, Lori.
So did you think it was important to
No,
maybe
because he knew
luminol the bat?
what happened.
Once again, there was no visual blood present on the bat, and we decided that we were not going to do that particular process.
So can't blood be invisible and still be on the bat if you
eye.
luminol it?
To the eye.
I guess if it's cleaned off, it would still maybe show some proteins, but that was something we decided not to do.
I would not expect. Does anyone expect if, let's like even say you get hit in the head with the bat and it's not enough to, it's enough to leave what she called a goose egg on your head. I'm not envisioning there being blood on the bat, even if afterwards it bleeds in the manner. There was no description of like a lot of blood. I don't know. But we'll see if the jury asks any questions. We'll see what they're thinking.
We fingerprinted it to show, because there was indication that Charles had grabbed it from Tylee. So we did our best evidence to try to grab that location where it would have been grabbed. But that's what we did.
Wouldn't that be important to your investigation?
Objection as to wouldn't what?
Yeah, please.
Wouldn't luminoling the bat be important to this investigation, this particular investigation?
I don't believe it would.
What about luminoling the gun? Was that done?
Once again, there's no visible, and we were under the impression that it happened 5 minutes before we got there, and there's no visible presence of blood on the bat.
Well, you went around the whole entire house looking for blood, is that correct?
Yes,
And you had the gun in your possession,
yes.
and you're in a police station.
I was at your house.
I'm saying you have access as the
That's
case agent
true.
to have
Sure.
any of these things tested, is that not right?
Yes,
So why didn't you test them?
because I did not think that luminol was needed to be tested because there was no visual blood.
So wouldn't you like to know that for sure?
I guess we make choices and we make decisions through this process based on the facts that we have and the facts that are presented to us. And based on the facts presented to us and what we saw and what we had, I did not feel that was necessary.
You also didn't feel it was necessary to arrest
You
anybody.
have charged me with a crime. Is that correct?
I have not, no.
You have
Your police
helped them charge me with a crime. Is that correct? The state of Arizona?
I conducted an investigation and I sent it forward, yes.
And you did not feel it was necessary to test any of these things?
Objection.
As the case
asked and
agent.
Answered like 4 times.
Sustained.
What logical reason do you have as an investigator to not investigate all of these things that were available to you for the past 5 years?
Your Honor, I'm again going to
You
object.
know what
asked and
this is?
If there's a
these things.
specific thing that
That's
hasn't been
a-
asked,
That's a really very broad question. I'll sustain the objection.
She has like something in her mind how she wants to end and she can't do it, so she's
That's all I
like,
have, Your Honor.
right now she's just gonna stop.
Redirect.
Great. Oh no. No. Come on, keep it short.
Detective, I'm going to start by just talking to you a little bit about luminol.
Why?
Is luminol a process used where you believe a scene has been cleaned up, like somebody actually attempted to remove blood from the scene, and so it's been diluted?
Correct, and it would show the remaining proteins left, yes.
And so luminol is used when there is no visible blood because the scene's cleaned.
Correct.
And so
That actually is a decent question.
in this case, you were under the impression that this homicide had occurred 5 minutes before police arrived?
Yes,
So you would not be expecting a cleaned up scene.
correct.
Let's just keep
But you
testifying,
did look
counsel.
to see if you saw visible blood.
We did, yes,
And by visible blood, you're talking about drops of
Why don't you
blood
ask
that might
him what
be
he's
there,
talking about?
correct,
swipes of blood that might be there,
correct,
hairs from someone's head that might be stuck in the bat.
yes.
And did you see any of that?
No, we did not.
Now, after this, did you learn that there was actually this 47-minute process?
We did,
So when you're processing the scene that day, you were not aware yet of how extensive this timeline was incorrect.
Correct.
Why? Because they're like all stupid and incompetent. We have seen, I mean, everyone knows when they arrive on a scene what time a call came in. Lori said what time she left. It's like, I don't even understand. Did they just walk around picking their asses and look into nothing? They put out a press release. They made a decision not to charge or arrest anybody. I mean, these guys have blood on their hands. On their hands. And convicting Lori after she's already convicted doesn't change that, because JJ's not here, Tylee's not here, Tammy's not here, Chad's not here, Alex isn't here. And who knows who else this group of whatever we're going to call them could possibly have unalived. But you got blood on your hands, buddy. And her stupid questions about what they didn't know, when I would think that everyone sitting there in the jury is like, how in the hell didn't they know? We saw Lori's statement. She was, telling them that from the beginning, what they don't talk at all. They make all these decisions, whatever.
I'm
But
not sure that I agree with you 100% on your police work there, Lou. I'm not sure that I agree with
that's awesome. When do we get that one? One more time.
you 100% on your police work there, Lou. I'm not sure that I agree with you 100% on your police work there, Lou.
All right, let's go.
In fact, we heard from Detective Werther that it was sort of the next day as he started going through the phone from Charles.
Yes.
And the day after that, as he's going to get videos from Burger King and Walgreens, that you're learning that this timeline is very wrong.
So then why still Alex was alive for 5 months after this? Why was he not investigated? Why was nothing happening? Why did, nothing came of this? I mean, what I would love to know is, when did they close the investigation? Were they actually still investigating anymore once Tylee and JJ's bodies were discovered? Did they start investigating once they realized, like, holy crap, these kids really are missing and something weird is going on? And I'm not going to let that woman bat her eyelashes at me, because then I just believe any word she says because I'm a stupid man.
Correct.
Sorry, not to insult all you men out there, but you're easily manipulated. Women are clearly the superior sex.
I want to talk about the data that you have reviewed in this case. When you talk about what was reviewed, whether by you, well, let's just say by you. In these iCloud accounts, are you talking terabytes of data?
Yes,
Okay.
each iCloud account can have terabytes of data, and you have to, and it's tedious because you can only look at one at the time. We can only look at one particular iCloud at a time and go through that, make notes. Then you'd have to shut down, open up another, and look through one iCloud at a time, and then try to, with your notes, to match these together. So it was a very labor-intensive process.
Oh, very labor intensive. However, the entire jury heard Lori tell you inch by inch, step by step, every single solitary detail that your labor intensive investigation turned up. I mean, they all heard it. When she left, how long he had been there, how many minutes, all of it. All of it. And there was something else I was just going to say about, Kay. Yeah. So, and Kay, I mean, not only did she, ask them to investigate, she demanded and demanded and demanded and, I think screamed from the rooftops. Um, Oh, and I don't know about this one. I meant about the kids. So maybe she did on Charles as well. But I was actually thinking about the kids.
And as you're looking through this, are you then learning more things that then makes you have to go back to the other iCloud account to try to see what you could find in that?
Absolutely.
So when we come in here with just a few documents and a few things, would it be fair to say that's just a grain of what you've gone through?
Absolutely.
So on July 11th of 2019, when you arrive at this scene, you think this homicide just occurred, did you understand at that time the relevance of cell phone or iCloud data?
No, what's something that happened, what sounded like it was a rather
Self-defense.
quick incident. It just happened 5 minutes ago. I wouldn't think of the necessity for cell phone data, like to show planning or anything like that, or show conversations over the weeks and months. Sometimes we get cases where, oh, this person's had beef with me forever. Obviously, I am going to want to take that phone and go look through that. But in this case, we just had something reported to us that happened just 5 minutes and very limited information, as it was almost an impromptu attack. We had no information at the time that this is something that had weeks, if not months, of planning.
On July 11th of 2019, did you start to see inconsistencies between the statements that were being given, the timeline, and the physical evidence at the scene? Did you start to see some inconsistencies?
Yes.
For instance, you
She's about to testify here, for instance. And I'm sorry, because I'm just going to point out again that on July 11th, the police department put out a press release that this was all basically describing it as, almost self-defense and indicating that there was nobody arrested, nobody charged.
see some inconsistencies.
Yes.
For instance, you
Objection leading.
were provided with a self-defense theory. Did you see inconsistencies between that statement and what you're seeing at the scene?
Yes.
And that's where we're talking about the
Objection
location
leading.
of the bullet wounds to Charles, the bullet strike under his left shoulder, and the bullet being
Jesus.
by his left
This
shoulder.
judge is like, is
for
he
one of those shots.
seriously
Correct.
just doesn't care? Doesn't
But
care.
again, you're still not aware of.
That's how much judges do not like when people go pro se, because this has been a pretty fair judge, I think, up till now. And it's not his job to assert an objection, but he is the gatekeeper. It is his courtroom. He can sua sponte say, you can't keep doing this. And we have seen him sua sponte, comment on what on when Lori does something that she shouldn't, procedurally, technically, whatever the case may be. Doesn't follow the rules of evidence.
But again, you're still not aware of the background of these individuals.
Correct.
As you began learning more information about the interaction between Charles and Lori Vallow and learned about the individuals, were you then able to obtain information to allow you to write search warrants to even obtain phone records and iCloud accounts?
Yes.
So that's not just something you can be like, hey, I just want that, so I'm just going to ask iCloud for it and I'll just hand that right over?
Correct. You have to have probable cause in order to get that.
So just to answer this question, would the judge say anything if the prosecutor were facing a lawyer who doesn't say anything? He very well might. And that's because the defendant has a right to effective assistance of counsel, where this defendant does not. She took on the risk. So he is letting her suffer those consequences. And but I think he probably would step in because he wouldn't want an appeal based on ineffective assistance of counsel. I think he'd be like calling the lawyer over, like, you need to wake up and you need to Are you paying attention here? Like what is happening? I don't know though. It's like I've never seen that happen. Obviously, it would be highly unusual, situation where a lawyer, I mean, repeatedly isn't objecting to something that's so like blatantly, obviously offensive. I mean, sometimes we're watching Karen Reed and we're like, object, God damn it. But we know that those lawyers are making a conscious decision to not object, not seem like they give a shit about anything that's being said. And sometimes a lawyer could do that, but a judge knows the difference between this looks like the lawyer's asleep, drunk, dead, whatever the case may be. So he might say something in that situation, but that's because he's concerned about the defendant's right to effective assistance of counsel and the possibility of an appeal. But again, I don't know for sure, but that's what I suspect. Anyway. All right. God, I wish you were done.
You were asked about DNA and blood, and I think you had said something about it. Is DNA only found in blood?
No,
So saliva can have it,
correct,
sweat.
correct.
So when you're asked about blood on the bat, that isn't the only form of DNA that would be left on there potentially.
Correct.
So if you had information that the bat belonged to Tylee, no matter what, you would expect to find her DNA on it.
I would.
Not, regardless of whether she ever bled on it, right?
Objection leading.
Was blood something different you were looking for, though?
It was.
And was that due to the fact that there's this allegation that Alex Cox was hit in the head
And
with
why
the
was
bat?
that, officer? He's not stupid,
And
counsel.
so we have the bat here. You looked at it yourself, did
Yep.
not see visible blood,
It did not.
and we have someone else who processed it and didn't see visible blood on it.
Correct.
Even on the edge top of it, do you see any sort of damage to that plastic around the tip of it?
I do not.
Plastic? The bat's plastic?
If you had processed that bat for DNA and you found Tylee's DNA on that, would you have told you that she put it on there on July 11th? Did they ticky mark that for you?
It would not.
Just say it was on there, right?
Correct.
Are you able to time that in any way?
No.
When the medical examiner comes out, the medical examiner's office comes out to the scene to collect the body. Body doesn't leave in an ambulance, right?
No, it does not.
They have a van.
Yes.
And does the doctor who's performing the autopsy come out there with you guys and
No,
check out the scene?
he does not.
So when a medical examiner testifies as to a wound being shored, but not knowing what it was against, he's not out at the scene looking at the body, right?
Correct.
He's not out at the scene looking at the projectile defect or on the ground underneath Charles's left shoulder.
Correct.
He's just saying that wound is shored. Whatever he was against is what it was.
Correct.
But you were at the scene
I was.
and you saw the shoulder in line with that defect
Your
on
Honor,
that ground
really
or on that
testifying
floor that you collected.
Correct.
Wake up, Lori. Or don't.
Now, did you ever have any information that Janice Cox or Barry Cox or Summer Shiflett were present at 5531 South, Four Peaks on July 11th?
We did not.
In fact, it appeared that Summer was actually going out of town, so she wasn't going to be around on the 11th.
Correct.
Now, you had mentioned that you were present when Summer and Janice were interviewed. Was that when the state interviewed them when they were listed as witnesses potentially for the defendant?
That is correct.
And in fact, did you recall Summer being asked about her offering her house to the defendant to stay at?
I do.
What we had seen in the text message.
Correct.
Was there anything about that statement that appeared to be untrue based upon your hearing or participating in that?
There's nothing.
Speculation. There's
In these
anything
text
about this
messages and
statement
iCloud
weird.
account records,
Was there anything about that statement that appeared untrue? Come on.
start with Ned. Text messages and iCloud. In these text messages and iCloud account records, start with Ned. When you first started seeing those, were you understanding the full story of where that came about?
No.
Did you then have to look to other people who, like Serena Sharp or Christina Atwood or others, who were aware of who Ned was,
Correct.
or what Ned was?
Yes.
In terms of Nephi, you said that we heard from Adam when he's asked about Nephi, what that meant to him.
Correct.
He provided us with a story of Nephi and Laban, right?
Correct.
You said you Googled this like many of us do, right? Start out there.
Right.
And then you actually spoke to other members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints?
I did.
Was that to make sure that you weren't missing something?
It was to make sure that there wasn't another story that might be out there that he's known for. And so, like I said, I would just randomly ask people that. And every single time I would ask that, that was the story that was told to me.
So others who were members of that church spoke the same way that Adam did.
Yes.
Me too. Where's the comment? There it is.
You're asked a lot about
Me too.
sort of processing of the scene and processing of the items of evidence. Was this case, let me ask you this, was the physical scene itself
Doesn't seem that way.
inconsistent with what was initially told?
Yes.
And did it require additional research into all of these different iClouds, cell phones, cell tower records to clarify what happened?
Yes. As the weeks and months went on, additional information was learned that basically required those accounts to better understand what took place.
And was that what then you spent months going through?
Right.
Oh, about to sneeze, but it won't come. Sorry.
And ultimately, after all of that, is when you eventually presented that case or turned it in to be reviewed.
Yes, I did.
Probably.
I have no other questions, Your Honor.
I'll
All
take
right, are there
that.
any questions for this witness from any member of the jury? I see at least one.
All right, let's see what the jury's thinking. All right, we got some bloop bloop time. All right.
Well, I think we're going to need that exhibit. Go ahead. We'll see if he knows, though. Regarding the pictures on Alex's phone sent to Lori, what was the time on the top left corner of the pictures? Do you recall?
All right, guys. So I wasn't here, and I'm dying to know what is that about, and what does it tell us about what the jurors are thinking that they're interested in this picture that Alex sent Lori. I know I think there's a little bit of a lag, so I'm going to give a chance for you guys to fill me in. All right, gray space. Alex took pictures of Charles and Adam's text on Charles' phone after he was shot. Wait, what? So Lori didn't have the phone? Alex took pictures of Charles and Adam's texts on Charles' phone after he was shot. Lori was supposedly already had his phone out in the car with his phone. Lyon says the same thing. Alex took pictures of the phone of Charles where the flight records for Adam. Maybe they'll put them back up. the timeline. Grace says he doesn't know, but she took pictures of it. Screenshot of a flight. Huh. All right. Well, let's see where it goes.
I don't know for certain. It was afternoon.
Would it refresh your memory to look at that
Yes,
photo?
yes.
What exhibit number is that from?
This is 222.
All right, so that's been admitted into evidence.
Time is 2:13.
Oh, way after the fact.
And the next question is the countertop in that picture, do you recognize that as whether or not that's the same countertop at the the Four Peaks address?
That is not the same as the Four Peaks address, no.
Okay.
Oh, let me pause it.
Before I go for follow-up to the parties, are there any other juror questions?
Okay, home. All right, wait. You want me to see what I can do on Southwest? I just landed in LA, sure. How are you going to get everyone together without Lori knowing? Huh. How are you going to get everyone together without Lori knowing? All right, so this was hours later. And it kind of still shows that they were focused on the fact that these guys were, trying to plot something. It could go either way. It could go into she, with all this weirdness, she really had a reason to ask Alex to be there. Or it could be like he killed him because they thought he was plotting something and this was all intentional. See how obsessed they are with what he's doing and who he's doing it with.
I don't see any follow-up from the defense based on that juror question.
No more questions, Your Honor.
All right, from the state?
Jeez, I'm sure got one.
Just that in that exhibit, the photo, of the phone, do we see both sort of Tuesday, 9:08, when these messages occurred? Let me pull in. As well as sort of what time the phone is showing.
Yeah, and I think the most telling thing is this is a
Objection.
communication between Adam and Charles. Clearly, the only phone that they had would have been Charles' phone, not Adam's.
And this conversation matches what you saw extracted from Charles's phone later between he and Adam on the 9th of July.
Correct.
No other questions from me, Your Honor?
All right, you can step down, sir.
So I think that she thought maybe the jurors really want to know what time.
Your
the
Honor, at this time, the
conversation
state has no further witnesses. The state will rest.
was.
All right, the state has rested its case, which means the state's portion of the evidence is done. I'm going to excuse the jury for a few minutes before you go home for the evening. Let me just do a consultation with the
Why don't you let 'em-
parties about tomorrow's schedule, and I'll let you know what time to report back. It should just be a couple minutes. So please remember the admonition. We'll let you know what time to report back tomorrow.
All right, for the jury.
Let the lawyer do the motion for direct verdict, or she's going to do it. I'm sure she's going to do it because Lori loves the spotlight and the stage. I don't even know if her lawyer could do it. I don't know that he can. I think he cannot. I don't think he can speak. We looked into before that they've got a kind of a different tier of like, I forget what they call it, but it's like
All right, please
almost
be
like a
seated.
co-counsel situation. This is not. It's just delivery.
All right. State's rested, so
He doesn't want to ask Lori if you have a motion.
do you plan on presenting evidence?
Can I confer with my
Yeah, go
team
ahead.
for a minute?
That prosecutor's all proud of herself. I don't know. We'll have to see. Jurors are much more, I think, resistant or giving more pushback than they have in the past. You know, and none of us really know what actually happened. It's possible that all things are true, um, and that it just happened, but then, I mean, he's a demon, so you got to let him lay there. I mean, I highly doubt it. Um, I highly doubt it. There was that time where it got all like, oh, he put the gun back in his. Oh, I remember that he. What was it that he had it out? Oh, that's right. Like when he was like, oh, he had to run back to his room. He didn't come out with the gun. He had to run back to his room, like open up his right while after Charles allegedly hits him with the bat or comes at him with the bat to the point that he's so afraid he's got to go get a gun that then Charles just sat there and waited for him while he opened up his uh gun safe and I mean little gun chest and all of that. And then one of you, who now I'll forget who, was like, well, he might have had it out on his, you know, bedstand and accessed it quickly. I think that was my logic, but I remember being like, oh man, that's it. That proves it was a plot. See what you guys are saying. Luna Cat, thanks for your generosity. She lied
Your Honor, I'd
about.
like to address a Rule 20 motion first.
Go ahead.
Okay. The state has failed to show substantial evidence for count 1, conspiracy to commit first-degree premeditated murder. The state has provided no evidence that I agreed with another person that any one of us would engage in certain conduct that I intended to promote or assist in this premeditated murder. Crime premeditated murder requires the state to establish a person caused the death of another with premeditation. The lack of evidence to show any evidence of a conspiracy to commit murder. There was no plan to murder Charles. No evidence has showed that, in fact, evidence suggested self-defense on the part of Alex. So I would like to put that on the record.
The judge is going to say, considering the evidence in the light most favorable to the prosecution, there were text messages and communications that could be interpreted as acknowledgement of some sort of plan. Although it's a close case, guys. It's a close case, but not a chance
right.
in hell is his answer.
State want to put a response on the record?
Yes, Your Honor. Looking at the evidence in the light most favorable to the state, there's sufficient evidence based upon everything from the iCloud messages from between Alex, the defendant, and others leading up to July 11th of 2019, that Alex Cox was invited over by this defendant, knowing that they were going to be having an intervention and knowing when Charles would be there and bringing a handgun over with him. The timelines on July 11th of the killing of Charles Vallow and the fact that the number of shots and the physical evidence at the scene, the statements by the defendant to Detective N. Clan that she took Charles Vallow's phone and would not give it back to him, the motive for money, and especially the defendant's motive for having an affair with Chad Daybell, all of those looking at together in the light most favorable to the state, the defendant or the jury could find the defendant guilty of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder.
So if I'm Lori, who should get the final word, we'll see if the judge affords her that, which he should. I would say that the state's own evidence puts forth another reasonable explanation for the conduct that would not allow a reasonable jury to find beyond a reasonable doubt that the conduct complained of by the state is indicative of a conspiracy, as opposed to her being fearful that a demon possessed Charles' body and that Charles could cause her harm. So she had her brother there to protect her. And maybe some other stuff, but I can't imagine any factual scenario in the world where this judge would dismiss this um, on grounds of on this basis when you're supposed to consider the evidence in the light most favorable to the prosecution. They at least put a theory, out there, and he's not the supposed to determine whether it is, the strength of it, just that there's enough there, something for the jury if they to find the elements met.
Last word.
There you go.
Do you want to add anything?
What? Come on,
No,
Lori.
Your Honor.
All
Wow,
right. The
good stuff.
standard is whether or not a reasonable juror whether or not there's substantial evidence for a reasonable juror to find the defendant guilty. The court does find that there is substantial evidence that a reasonable juror could find the defendant guilty. The court will further add that the jurors are the ones who judge the credibility of the
Right.
witnesses,
Not the judge.
and it's ordered denying the Rule 20 motion.
All right, so let's hear it.
Are you going to present evidence tomorrow, either through witnesses or through your own testimony?
No, Your Honor, the defense will rest.
All right, if that's the case, I'm going to tell the jury.
Oh,
How long does the state anticipate its closing argument being?
I would assume probably over an hour.
like
How about the defense?
Less than that.
Can we do the closings at 1 p.m.? We can formalize all the jury instructions at 10:30.
Your Honor,
Is that enough time?
the state would request that we do them Monday to ensure that the state would request.
So the question becomes, and we'll learn at the jury instruction, is there any evidence to support an instruction on self-defense? Typically, someone has to take the stand, put in some evidence. But I think in this case, and there is law, I don't know about Arizona law, but the law can say that the elements can be, or the framework can be established on the state's during the state's case in chief. And I think obviously here, I think there's been enough evidence to instruct the jury on self-defense. And if they find that there was, if they find that Alex acted in self-defense, then then they can't find Lori guilty of conspiring to commit murder. Although it's just, I don't even know where I was going with that, but so we'll see, because the jury stuff is interesting, and that's where we're going to hear some stuff. Maybe we'll have to talk about it. Maybe Bob and I watch it and decide where there's stuff of interest, or maybe we all just get on. I think I'm in court tomorrow, so all right, let's
Request we do closings Monday to ensure that we don't
what
finish with a rebuttal closing on Monday.
Monday?
Well, I'm willing to go in the morning if we want to start in the morning at 11 and do jury instructions
Wednesday.
at 10:15 or something like that. Does that work?
Again, I'm asking for Monday, but if the court does
No,
not allow that,
why?
then we'll go whenever the court says tomorrow.
Why Monday? Who the hell is she talking about? Wait.
But if the
One thing like that.
closing on Monday to ensure
It's all the jury instructions.
the state would request that we do them Monday to ensure that the state would request we do closings Monday to ensure that we don't finish with a rebuttal closing on Monday.
Well, I'm willing to go in the morning if we want to.
How in the hell
We'll
is she?
go whenever the court says tomorrow.
She said it's an hour now. I'm trying to say it's going to go to Monday. Her lawyer might be saying, well, you might want Monday too, because these, and isn't Monday, a holiday? What's happening here? Oh, Sunday is Easter. Because I don't know if this jury is going to be sequestered, then they're going to be angry that they're sequestered over the holiday, then they're going to want to finish up, they're going to want to get done. You're going to have people, just conceding things, and you're not going to have that fight. If you get them through till Monday, they've got no Easter, they had a little break, fresh minded, you got all week. It could be better for the defense as well. I mean, the prosecution is clearly afraid that if they want to get out of there, they might just agree on not guilty, which there's a chance.
Do you want to weigh in?
Well, just that we haven't had time to go over the jury instructions. I don't get back to the jail until like 5:30 or 6 o'clock, so
You agree then that Monday's better?
I would agree.
Wow. Well, that's why.
All right, we'll tell the jury to report at 10:30 a.m. on Monday. They don't have to come in tomorrow.
Judge, could we have the defendant rest in front of the jury before they leave today?
Are you prepared to rest today? If you rest, that means you can't change your mind about testifying.
Can we do it on Monday?
We can do that on Monday, but if you change your mind, I need to know in advance because it's going to change the jury instructions and it's going to change the schedule.
Absolutely, I will let you know.
All right. Tell the jury they don't need to report on tomorrow, that they need to report Monday at 10:30 a.m.
And she's
Okay.
got to go talk to.
So let's meet
Verona.
tomorrow, though, to finalize the jury instructions. Why don't we just do that at,
1.
what's tomorrow, Thursday?
10:30?
We'll just do it at
Now she wants
10:30.
to be 10:30, yeah.
Um,
What time I have court tomorrow?
That'll be
9
enough
a.m.
time for you to read those tonight.
Yeah, if I could have time to meet with my advisory council before that, that would be great.
I can put
If
it
I
on the
can be
calendar.
brought in.
I can put it on the calendar for 10 and
Half hour?
I think well,
11?
I can put it on the calendar for 10 so you can meet with them back here and then we'll meet at about 10:45. We'll have come in the courtroom and finalize the jury instructions.
I mean, she should have her
right.
lawyer sitting next to her for that anyway.
If I did give a copy to your advisory councils as well, or at least one copy there. So if the advisory councils and or the state review that tonight and see something additional or correction that needs to be made, go ahead and give me a heads up so I can be prepared to talk about it tomorrow as well. So, all right, we'll see everyone in court at 10:45, but we'll put it on the calendar for 10 a.m. so that the defendant can meet with her advisory councils at 10 a.m. All right, thank you.
Like, nope, no hot mic. So I left this comment up here because what? I'm gone. Because did Lori lie about the times? I thought she said that she left. She went to either went to the school and the gate was still closed, or didn't go to the school because the gate was still closed. Went to Burger King, went to Walgreens, picked up the shoes, went to the school, dropped off JJ, and then came back. So I might have missed something about what she lied about, though. I mean, um my memory of all of that stuff is really what I'm kind of pulling from when we did the podcast series. Again, that's podcast only, and it's strings attached. So if you haven't checked it out, you should. So I don't know, Luna, if you put some comments in the regular chat, I'll check it. Kraken, thanks for your generosity. 5 Defense Diary podcast memberships. So I wonder, what do you guys think? So Sunny Drop says, no, Lori did not lie. Oh, you guys couldn't hear it because I removed it from the stage, but I left the YouTube in my ear. So all of a sudden I got like some comedian. I mean, she might change her mind overnight. She's going to consult with Moroni. She's going to, you know, it's kind of weird because from what we would kind of, or at least I would like instinctively think of Lori, is that she would want that moment on the, on the stand. So she's showing some real restraint in deciding not to do that. Um, because it obviously could open the door to a lot of things, and we've seen people not care um, and still take the stand. So, but I was going to say, um, I don't think that Lori said anything about the 911 call because she wasn't part of it. Um, and that's what Sunny Drop is saying as well. She wasn't there. She wasn't home. When we watched her interview with the female officer that testified, it seemed to me like she was saying all of the things that happened. Obviously, I think I remembered. Did they put anything in the text? Because I thought I remembered from the first trial that like Charles at some point Alex asked her or called her like, "What should I do? Should I call 911?" Or that there was a call to Lori before 911. Did they put any of that stuff in, and did that get uh fleshed out? Ooh, MB's listening to no strings attached. Um, yeah, I said it wrong. I said strings attached, no strings attached. She's got no strings. Everything can die, and everyone. So I think my question was going to be, do you guys think Lori might change her mind between now and Monday about putting on evidence or even taking the stand? Well, yes, that is true, Fifi. No one called the police until long after the shooting. It was about, like they're saying, 40 minutes or so. The jury did not, and thanks for your generosity and your modding, aspiring court reporter. The jury did not see the Charles body cam video. I played it here for you guys, but no, they did not see that. Did not see that. Right, she'll just go to JD says it was 47 minutes. Sounds about right. There were 2 calls before Lori, like, that's what I thought, and how and that right there, um, I think can be something that the jury talks about when they talk about conspiring, like, well, he didn't call 911, but he called Lori, and are we gonna believe that he didn't say to her, "I didn't call 911 yet?" And what was the time between the 2 calls? How long did they last? Um is also of interest. Kraken says, in my opinion, he waited to call 911 because she wasn't there. Um, I mean, he might have been, uh, but he also just might have been really wanting to make sure that and we say Ned, but at this point in time, it was Heplos or Heplos, um, was the name of the demon allegedly uh, that she allegedly believed possessed Charles. So Green Space says, remember Lori and Tyler were there to hear the shot. Yeah, Lori was in the house for the shot, but she was going around, like that. She was on the other side of this wall. So she didn't see the shot, but she heard the shot and then she left. Um, so is that true? Was she wearing shoes when she walked into Walgreens? I thought she bought flip-flops for both of them. I mean, even if she was, I don't think she lied about leaving barefooted. I really don't. Um, I mean, maybe. I mean, it could have been like a plan, like, all right, we're gonna leave barefooted so that it can seem like this all happened, but this is all us speculating because we know Lori and we know what she's done. And the jury's not supposed to be, and that's not reasonable doubt. I mean, that's not proof beyond a reasonable doubt. The prosecutor was not allowed to show Charles body cam footage. No, he was not. Nope. And Lori wasn't allowed to show Tylee's video supporting everything that she said. And again, I mean, it's fair to assume she had a lot of control over Tylee, and could have easily manipulated Tylee into saying whatever she wanted. There's also a slim chance that it happened something like that, but then he took that opportunity to kill Charles because he was a demon. And it's also very possible that it was all a ploy and that was the plan that they were going to do it that day. It's just hasn't been proven one way or another, and I worry that it hasn't. All right, guys. I think we're coming back. Gosh, how long until we come back? Although Lori said she rested, she then said, "Your Honor, can I have till Monday to decide?" And he said, "If you change your mind, you got to let me know." And she said, "I'll let you know." So closings are on Monday. The jury instructions are tomorrow at 10:45-ish. So I'll talk to Bob. Maybe we'll go live, like 30 or 40 minutes after that, have a lot of blooping time. I am so tired. I am exhausted. I still, yeah, thanks for pointing that out, DSN. And yeah, maybe Lori over the weekend will, as Oasis says, talk herself into testifying. All right, guys. Well, thank you all for being here. Thank you all for your generosity. Hopefully, Bob thanked those of you that did super stickers before I got here. Tracy Fagan, thank you for your generosity. Kay, I think that Kai is a returning kind of YouTube member, if I remember correctly. Tracy, I actually loved this joke. Is zombie blood invisible? Thanks again for your generosity. Blustery Breeze, maybe she's admitting he wasn't hit by accident. I wasn't here for that part, but I think it dealt with the part of the cross-examination by Lori. And thanks for your generosity. And I know I started here with Camilla, so thanks for your generosity. And Tammy Martin, thanks for your generosity. DSN, even with your "I look tired" comment, thank you. And I did thank Kraken, Lunacat, and Aspiring Court Reporter. I'm so glad you guys are all here watching with us. We really appreciate it. And I think we'll see you tomorrow. Maybe Bob will put some feelers out, see what you guys want to do. Are you interested in the jury instructions? But we'll figure it out. We'll decide. Oh, what time is tonight? Mandy can probably tell you while I'm literally looking on YouTube to see, because that's how much I know. Whistle, does that mean? Oh, members only in 25 minutes. And Kai, 8:30 Central. Wait, in 25 minutes or an hour and 25 minutes our time? All right. I will see you wonderful members and patrons soon. I was trying to see if is it an hour and 25 minutes or 25 minutes, but I don't know why I can't, when I'm looking on YouTube, I can't see. I can't tell. Yeah. An hour and 25 minutes. All right. Thank you guys. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Hudson.